Chapter 276, Slaying the Projection of the Yin Yang Saint Lord. A mysterious, swirling aura erupted from Jiang Qiankun. Light and shadow intertwined as Yin and Yang began to flow, warping the laws of the world to manifest a hazy image. It was the Yin Yang Saint Lord. The Saint Lord stared at Jiang Qiankun with a dark, heavy gaze. His deep eyes flickered with a cold, murderous fire as he let out a low, sinister growl. Jiang Qiankun, you have grown quite bold lately. How dare you deceive me? If not for the soul fragment of Master Kuei acting as a medium, the Saint Lord would still be in the dark. This puppet had been feasting on the resources he provided, yet had grown a backbone. Jiang Qiankun had dared to devour the elite bloodlines of the Jiang family for himself, rather than offering them up as tribute. Jiang Qiankun lowered his eyes. Facing the man who was his master in name only, he remained calm. There was even a hint of disdain in his expression. Perhaps it was the influence of the demonic path, but his mind had never been clearer. The hesitation and fear that once plagued him had vanished. He finally saw the truth. To the Yin Yang Saint Lord, he was nothing more than a loyal dog, a hound used to hunt the bloodlines of his own kin. A dog has no status. A dog is never invited to the table. The promises the Saint Lord had made were nothing but hollow lies. Once his value was spent, he would be discarded. He had suspected this for a long time, but he had never dared to break the illusion. The Saint Lord was his last support. But now, it did not matter. He had only 3 years of life remaining. He had no time to waste on false pleasantries with this master. He had to gamble everything to seize a new lease on life. The bloodlines of the Jiang family, the true demon crystal, and the ancestor-like blood of Jiang Xuan, all of it was his for the taking. One must be mad to truly live. He had stepped onto the path of the demon with nothing left to lose. What was there to fear? Jiang Qiankun raised his eyes, now swirling with demonic light. He looked at the projection with a mocking smile. Master, I will call you that one last time. I owe my current state entirely to your devoted cultivation. He lingered on the word cultivation with heavy irony. I know you wanted to use me to control the Jiang family, turning them into a living reservoir for your own power. It was a brilliant plan. Their blood truly does contain incomparable wonders. And now look at me. Jiang Qiankun spread his arms. His muscular frame, forged like dark iron, was covered in shifting demonic runes. A terrifying energy rippled through the air. If not for you, I would never have realized I was sitting on a mountain of treasure all those years. The Saint Lord's face turned ashen. He never expected this ant to be so arrogant. Everything Jiang Qiankun possessed had been a gift from him. Suddenly, Jiang Qiankun curved his hand into a claw and drove it straight into his own chest. His fingers, coated in black light, tore into his heart and dragged out a struggling soul fragment. Master Kuei, it has been a long time. Why are you hiding in my heart, instead of resting at the sacred ground? He greeted the panicked soul with a light chuckle. Master Kuei was terrified. The change in Jiang Qiankun was beyond anything he could have imagined. This failure of a man had been reborn. The soul fragment had been planted there by the Saint Lord to watch Jiang Qiankun and eventually replace him. But since entering the demon cave, Jiang Qiankun's luck had shifted. His power had skyrocketed, reaching the half-step heavenly Yuan realm. More frighteningly, he had known about the spy all along and now held the man's life in his palm. Jiang Qiankun, it is not too late to repent. If you persist in this madness, you will die? Master Kuei screamed, trying to hide his trembling voice. The Saint Lord's projection was present, but its power was limited, especially within the sealed confines of the demon cave. It could not protect him. His only hope was that Jiang Qiankun still feared the Saint Lord's wrath. Jiang Qiankun smiled coldly. Under the Saint Lord's icy stare, he tightened his grip. The demonic runes on his fingers crushed the soul fragment into dust. He looked back at the projection, ignoring the suffocating killing intent. From this day forward, I am no longer your puppet. No one will ever pull my strings again. The Saint Lord's face twisted in rage. You beast. Before he could speak another word, Jiang Qiankun unleashed a punch. His supreme demonic body, fueled by raw energy, shattered the projection into a cloud of mist. You had better pray that I stay in this cave forever, Jiang Qiankun whispered to the empty air. Because if I claim that crystal, I will march upon the Yin Yang sacred ground to repay you for every lesson you taught me. His voice was like ice, freezing the very atmosphere. As the echoes faded, Jiang Qiankun transformed into a dark blur, racing along the dried riverbed toward the heart of the demonic lands. The true demon crystal would be his. The memories of the demon soul he had absorbed told him the crystal came from a supreme, true demon, a being who once stood at the pinnacle of the heavens, far beyond the true God realm. Even in an era of countless saints and gods, that demon was a legend. Some even believed he had touched the realm of immortality. It had taken a host of gods to seal him away, creating this very cave. The crystal was more than just a key to becoming a god. Its true value lay in the inheritance of the supreme demonic path. For any other genius, such a legacy would be a curse, as it would erode their existing foundations and force them to start over. But Jiang Qiankun was different. He had already embraced the dark path. His body was already forged from demonic breath. To him, the inheritance was pure power without a single drawback. This was why he believed he was the chosen one. Everything since he entered the cave had gone too perfectly. He was convinced this was his true destiny. If not for the interference of Jiang Xuan, his rise would have begun long ago. The pulsing energy of the crystal confirmed it. All of this had been prepared specifically for him. Chapter 277, The Human Tablet Blessing and the 5% Mark. Far away in the Yin Yang sacred ground of the Eastern Divine Prefecture, Beast, the Yin Yang Saint Lord roared. His fury manifested as a surging sea of fire that scorched the entire temple. To be a hunter his whole life, only to have his eyes pecked out by a sparrow today, was an absolute humiliation. A black-robed figure stepped out from within him. It was his shadow from a past life. Thanks to the essence blood of Jiang Mingho, they had begun their initial fusion. With the union of Yin and Yang, their power had surged, leaving them only a single step away from the void god realm. Once the right moment arrived, they would cross that threshold. It was precisely because of this increase in strength that the Yin Yang Saint Lord had been able to teleport the life demon pill, containing the soul fragment of Master Kuei, to Jiang Qiankun. He never expected this idle move would indirectly trigger Jiang Qiankun's rebellion. The shadow looked at the furious Saint Lord with a touch of mockery. It seems your ability to manipulate the human heart still lacks a bit of heat. I do not need your sarcasm, the Saint Lord replied coldly. You and I are one. Jiang Qiankun's betrayal and the disruption of our plans bring you no benefit. I do not mind at all. The shadow shrugged and chuckled. If the plan had succeeded, I would have been completely merged into you to become your nourishment and a mere fragment of your memory. Now that the plan is disrupted and the fusion is delayed, I can live a bit longer. I am actually quite happy. The Saint Lord turned his head sharply. He stared at his shadow with cold, violent eyes. Seeing this, the shadow yielded with a helpless gesture. Fine, fine. No more jokes. Jiang Qiankun was always a chess piece to be discarded. Even if he rebels, it will not affect the grand scheme. The plan for the Earth Emperor's secret realm will proceed as scheduled. Nothing will be delayed. The Saint Lord frowned deeply. This matter must not fail. You will handle it personally. Ensure that the geniuses of the Jiang family are all lured into the Earth Emperor's secret realm. The shadow nodded. The power of Taiyin, black as an abyss, flowed around him. His body turned fluid like mud before reshaping itself. His face became the exact likeness of Jiang Qiankun. Even his aura was identical. Ever since the demon race tried to assassinate Jiang Qiankun, the Saint Lord had lost faith in him. He had already begun preparing a second plan, to transform into Jiang Qiankun and, using his name, coordinate the entry of the Jiang family geniuses into the Earth Emperor's secret realm to slaughter them and refine their essence blood. With the real Jiang Qiankun's rebellion, the second plan was officially launched. Once the Demon Cave event ends, I will arrive at the Jiang family to gather the geniuses. Exploiting the time gap will be enough to deceive them, the shadow said calmly. However, there is one fatal issue. You must ensure Jiang Qiankun does not die in the Demon Cave. If he dies and his life tablet shatters, no matter how much I look like him, it will be meaningless. The Saint Lord lowered his eyes and snorted with suppressed anger. Do not worry about that. That waste Jiang Qiankun has some ability now. He has grasped the demonic path and his strength has increased significantly. He is no weaker than a top-tier genius. Though the Demon Cave is full of danger, surviving it will not be a problem for him. That is good then. The shadow nodded and then flowed away like a pool of mud. I will head to the Jiang family territory first. Once the Demon Cave opens, send me word and I will begin the operation immediately. Meanwhile, Jiang Xuan and his group were rushing toward the true demon sealing grounds. They killed as they went, maintaining a steady, unhurried pace. By now, they had entered the core region. The strength of the demonic creatures had risen to the late stage of the Earth Xian realm. Their intelligence was no lower than a human's, and their combat instincts were staggering. They fought with an invincible momentum as if they had survived 100 battles. Calling these creatures, who were corrupted by the will of the true demon, mere demonic animals was no longer appropriate. Perhaps they should be called great demons. These beings were not much different from the actual demon race. Along the way, Jiang Xuan and the others passed several fallen geniuses. Some had died at the hands of these great demons, their bodies gnawed into fragments. Bang, bang, bang. Jiang Xuan cleared the path. The ancient gate in his hands was like a charging dragon elephant, crushing one great demon after another. Compared to the lesser monsters, the strength of the great demons had increased significantly, but Jiang Xuan's strength had grown even more. Whether it was his Earth Xian 8th grade cultivation, the blade ancestor inheritance he had mastered, his 80% Jiang family bloodline concentration, or the ancient gate itself, everything pointed to his terrifying power. He was now no weaker than any top-tier genius. His previous ability to fight the peak Earth Xian underworld guards to a standstill was proof enough. The other 3 Jiang family geniuses also joined the fray frequently, clearing out demon generals and hunting for demon crystals. As for Jiangqing and Jiang Hong, Jiang Xuan kept them close to study their unique constitutions. Ming Fan joined in the research as well. The Underworld King and Ghost Mother constitutions of the siblings were known as the Ghost Path Sacred Bodies. To some extent, they possessed an incomparable suppression over all things evil and dark. This applied to both the demonic creatures in the cave and the underworld guards who had turned into the Underworld Race. This crushing effect was worth studying, as it might produce some surprising results. The suppression of demonic creatures had already been proven back in the Demon Valley. Jiang Qing and Jiang Hong could, to a certain degree, control and drive the monsters to form a decent fighting force. However, this limit depended on their cultivation. At present, without external help, the siblings could only control monsters up to the mid-stage of the Earth Xian realm. They found it difficult to command the great demons of the core region, whose intelligence was high. Still, given that their cultivation was only at the spirit transformation realm, this level of suppression was remarkable. The only pity was that, aside from the 12 underworld guards Jiang Xuan had decapitated with one sword strike, they had not found any other creatures of the underworld race along the path. This made it impossible to determine exactly what rank of the underworld race the siblings could suppress, or to what degree. They would likely have to wait until they clashed with Ming Kong and forced him to reveal his hidden cards to test their theory in real combat. It was worth noting that as they cleared more great demons, Jiang Xuan felt a faint, mysterious sensation. The human race fortune blessing him seemed to have increased. This was strange. Normally, hunting demonic creatures granted a chance to receive the fortune of the profound heavens, not specifically the human race fortune. While both were types of fortune with similar mystical powers, there were subtle differences. Furthermore, ever since he had wiped out tens of thousands of monsters with 3 sword strikes in the Demon Valley, he had not acted again. He left the creatures they encountered to Jiang Xuan and the others for practice. Occasionally, Ming Fan or the Saintess of Wenchang would step in. In short, his current role was more like a protector. Yet, as long as someone in his group killed a monster, his own human race fortune increased. When he asked the spirit of the human tablet about this, Ling Er gave him an explanation. Master, as the young king, you have the duty to clear out invaders from all races and protect humanity. Every time an alien being is eliminated, you receive a blessing of human race fortune. Those who follow the young king contribute their merits of clearing alien races to you as well. This surprised Jiang Xuan and brought him a bit of joy. Was he now like a character in a growth-based game, raising followers and reaping the experience? At the same time, Ling Er reported, Master, the human race fortune currently blessing you has increased by about 5 times compared to when you were in the profound light miner world. The progress of the human tablet unity has reached 5%. The smile on Jiang Xuan's face vanished instantly. Well, it was going to be a long road ahead. Chapter 278. The True Demon Awakens, a Rebirth in the Second Life. In the deepest reaches of the demon cave lies the sealing ground of the true demon. The area is blanketed in demonic energy, so dense it has become physical. In this absolute darkness, the laws of the world and the powers of the void vanish, as if they fear being tainted by such a supreme, malevolent presence. Floating within this void is an ancient coffin of profound iron. Its surface is carved with reliefs of great calamities, etched with a terrifying realism. Thousands of chains representing the great Tao coil around it, binding and suppressing whatever lies within. The supreme, true demon rests inside this iron tomb. In that turbulent era of the heavens, a host of gods from beyond the stars joined forces to sever the demon's body. They tore him limb from limb and suppressed the pieces across various parts of the demon cave. Their goal was to stifle the indestructible vitality of his physical form, using supreme divine formations to grind away his flesh and the power of time to erode his soul. The head of the true demon remains sealed within this coffin. For nearly 10 million years, the energy leaking from his body has fueled the dangers of this cave. Now, that long era is nearing its end. The monsters within the cave have been systematically cleared by rising geniuses. Even the demonic intent saturating the air has been purified or devoured by individuals like Jiang Xuan and Jiang Qiankun, each using their own unique fortune to harvest the remains. Everything was proceeding exactly as the ancient gods had planned. Once the seal reached its limit and the true demon crystal was removed, the demon would perish forever, and this cave would fade into history. But variables exist everywhere. As the energy of the divine formation wanes, the chains of the great Tao on the iron coffin are snapping one by one. The intricate seals formed by the carvings are visibly loosening, and chaotic waves of energy are beginning to spill out. Thump, thump, thump. Heavy collisions resound from inside the coffin like the tolling of a great funeral bell. A vast, demonic voice carries a seductive power, pulling at the souls of any who might hear it. It is the whisper of a fallen god speaking from the abyss, sharing his loneliness, his sorrow, and the boredom of his rebirth. I have told you many times, the voice murmured. With your meager, pathetic strength, you cannot kill me. Yet you charming little gods are so self-righteous. You foolishly sacrificed yourselves to lay down this crude formation, hoping the weight of years would undo me. Was it worth it? If you had knelt before me when I took control of the heavens, you would still be alive today. You might have even found true transcendence. But no, you chose to be wrong until the very end, placing your bets on this tiny human race. Look at them now. Look at the descendants of those you died for. See how ridiculous they are. See how greedy. One colludes with the Underworld Race, hoping to enslave his peers and weaken the very forces that could stop my return. Another is swollen with pride and petty cleverness, stealing the keys to the formation and draining its power just to help me break free early. And there is a third. The voice chuckled. This one is the most amusing. He slaughters his own kin and walks the demonic path, hoping to steal my power and become the next true demon. It is quite a bold ambition. Even the gods feared to touch my power, yet this boy has the nerve to try. I cannot decide if I should praise his youthful spirit or laugh at his ignorance. Inside the iron coffin, the true demon slowly opened eyes as dark and deep as the void itself. You gods were too idealistic. You underestimated my realm. You truly thought sacrificing yourselves to power a seal would grind me away. How naive. Time can erode me, yes. It can bring me to the brink of decay. But the ultimate power of transcendence is beyond time itself. Even if I am only halfway to that state, it is enough to make me immortal. The demon's head turned slowly, creating a sound like the grinding of breaking laws. His gaze pierced through the metal walls of the coffin, looking outward. He smiled. Oh, they have arrived. The descendants of those you bet everything on are here. Do you see them? They did not follow your final wishes to purge the darkness and prevent my rebirth. No, they came for my crystal. Greedy little humans. They have no idea what a true disaster looks like. Today, I shall use the blood of these geniuses to restore myself to my peak. The demon laughed softly. It is a pity you are all dead. You will not be able to witness me warring across the heavens once more, taking my place as the ruler of all worlds. Outside the ink-black ceiling grounds, the various factions had begun to gather. First to arrive was the party led by Ming Kong. Dressed in his black dragon robes, Ming Kong stood suspended in the air with his hands behind his back. His powerful aura pressed down on the surroundings, creating ripples in the void. Beside him stood 9 figures, including the youth in gray robes. These were the geniuses possessed by the ancestors of the Underworld Race. The deep, heavy aura of the half-step heavenly Yuan realm radiated from them, carrying a pressure that made the heart skip a beat. Behind them stood over 300 followers, all within the Earth Xian realm. This did not even include the 3,000 underworld soldiers currently circling back to hunt the stragglers in the inner regions. When those reinforcements arrived, Ming Kong's strength would be absolute. The other geniuses watching from the distance felt a sense of dread. How was Ming Kong here? Had he not already surpassed the heavenly Yuan realm? Was he suppressing his own cultivation? Their confusion only grew as they looked at the 9 figures beside him. How had the holy sons of top-tier sects from the Central Divine Prefecture all reached the half-step heavenly Yuan realm at the same time? And why were they all standing with Ming Kong? The situation was deeply unsettling. Another group consisted of the remaining princes of the Great Ming and the warriors they had recruited. Those in the spirit transformation realm were long dead, and many Earth Xian warriors had been lost along the way. They were down to about 150 men. With Prince Ming Xiang dead by Ming Fan's hand and the 6th prince fallen in the Demon Valley, only 5 of the 9 brothers remained. They had entered the cave with grand ambitions to compete for the throne, but the reality of the core region had shattered their dreams. The great demons they encountered were terrifying. They had lost nearly half their strength just to reach this point. Seeing that Ming Kong commanded 300 men, including 9 half-step heavenly Yuan masters, they made the rational choice to huddle together for survival. The true demon crystal was likely out of their reach. At this point, they would consider it a victory just to leave this place alive. Chapter 279. Gathering at the core, the great battle begins. Beyond these 2 groups, the remaining forces consisted of geniuses and eccentrics from various sections. They clustered together by faction, some numbering 20 strong, while others stood as solitary warriors. A rough count revealed nearly 1,000 cultivators in the Earth Xian realm. This was a staggering figure. Usually, most individuals on the Hidden Dragon list were in the early to mid stages of that realm. Yet here, over 1,000 such masters had converged. The reason for this discrepancy was simple. The Owl King had invited the elite of the entire profound heaven continent to clear the demon cave. This gathering represented more than just the current generation. It included veterans from previous years and even ancient geniuses who had sealed themselves away in ice or stone to await a new era. There were also many, like Jiang Xuan, who had kept their true power hidden until now. Some unscrupulous sects had even sent seasoned experts to suppress their own cultivation levels, ignoring the unspoken rule that this place was for the youth alone. The divine formation of the demon cave restricted power levels, but it did not check a person's age. The air grew heavy as rival factions sized each other up. Silent glares and clashing auras created a stifling tension. The atmosphere was a powder keg waiting for a single spark to ignite a total massacre. At that moment, the goddess of the desolate heaven, Luo Xinglan, arrived with her entourage. The surrounding factions glanced her way but quickly lost interest. Luo Xinglan was ranked 42nd on the Hidden Dragon list. Though she had advanced from the 6th to the 9th level of the Earth Xian realm, a group of 20 people was hardly a threat in this massive crowd. Compared to Ming Kong, she offered little pressure. Luo Xinglan remained indifferent to the stairs. Her gaze locked onto Ming Kong. When she saw his 300 followers and 9 half-step heavenly Yuan masters, her blue eyes narrowed. The situation was far more difficult than she had anticipated. Ming Kong was too well prepared. His personal strength and his private army far surpassed anyone else on the field. She scanned the crowd. This is just a small service I can provide. It is not worth mentioning, so please, do not get so excited. Fellow travelers? Who is your fellow traveler? A small service? You call stealing the exit a small service? They were all preparing for the battle of a lifetime over the true demon crystal, and this man had simply removed their way out. He wanted them to thank him? How could they not be excited when their only escape route was sitting on a teenager's shoulder? The chances of getting the crystal were already slim. Many had planned to risk everything in a final gambit and then flee immediately to the protection of their sect elders. Now, the path was blocked. How were they supposed to fight with no way out? Jiang Xuan, you deserve to die for this. Several holy sons and goddesses hissed through gritted teeth. Jiang Xuan cupped his fists and bowed politely to each of them. You are quite welcome. His polite response nearly drove them to madness. No one had thanked him. The saintess of Wenchang and her students winced, quietly moving their group further away. They could not handle Jiang Xuan's style. It was too embarrassing to be associated with. On the other hand, Ming Fan watched Jiang Xuan with a glimmer in his eyes, feeling as though he was learning a profound new lesson in strategy. Jiang Xuan, Ming Kong finally spoke. He squinted at Jiang Xuan, his eyes flashing with icy killing intent. You should not have come here. Now that you are here, you are destined to stay forever. Hand over the gate, and I will leave your body intact. Ming Kong was secretly disgusted. He had never seen someone pull a stunt like this. Originally, his focus was entirely on the true demon crystal. He planned to deal with everyone else, including Jiang Xuan, after securing the prize. But now that Jiang Xuan held the exit, he had to change his priorities. No matter how successful his plan was, it meant nothing if he could not leave. The crowd looked at Jiang Xuan with newfound respect. If Ming Kong was taking him this seriously, it proved that Jiang Xuan was more than he appeared. Perhaps he really could stand against the prince. Ideally, they would both cripple each other, leaving the rest to reap the rewards. Ming Kong was a giant blocking their path to the crystal, but Jiang Xuan was a nuisance holding their lives hostage. Neither could be allowed to remain. Jiang Xuan met Ming Kong's gaze. He narrowed his eyes and gave a cold, thin smile. What? Are you sticking your face out for me to slap again? Ming Kong's expression darkened. His killing intent became a tangible frost that chilled the air. You are seeking death. The atmosphere dropped to a freezing point. Both sides were tensed, ready to draw blood. The 5 princes and the other sect geniuses prepared themselves to jump into the fray. Once the chaos started, the last one standing would take everything. But just as the first move was about to be made, a voice filled with jagged, evil laughter rang out. Everyone get back. His life belongs to me. Chapter 280. Facing the enemy, Jiang Qiankun. Rumble. Evil, violent demonic energy surged as Jiang Qiankun stepped slowly out of the dried-up demonic river. His body was entirely shrouded in crawling demonic runes. With every step he took through the air, those runes rippled beneath his feet, corroding the laws of the void itself. The powerful aura of a half-step heavenly Yuan master erupted like a raging tide, shaking the sky and sending visible tremors through the atmosphere. Jiang Qiankun, a half-step heavenly Yuan? The crowd gasped in shock. No one expected such a monster to step forward at this critical moment. Judging by his sheer pressure and presence, his combat strength was likely not far behind Ming Kong. It was utterly beyond reason. Before entering the demon cave, Jiang Qiankun had reached the peak of the Earth Xian realm, but his aura had been visibly unstable. His actual combat power had been nowhere near his cultivation level. Yet in just a few short days, he had undergone a total metamorphosis. What kind of miraculous encounter had he found within the cave? Suddenly, the eyes of the various factions flickered with calculation. Unlike geniuses like Jiang Xuan or Luo Xinglan, Jiang Qiankun was alone. He had no team. This presented a perfect opportunity to recruit him. After all, it was nearly impossible for a lone wolf to secure the true demon crystal. If they showed enough sincerity and joined forces with him, their chances would skyrocket. Among the gathered elites, many were in the late stages of the Earth Xian realm, but only Ming Kong and his 9 followers reached the peak or the half-step heavenly Yuan level. That was why Ming Kong dominated the field. Jiang Qiankun's arrival introduced a crack of possibility into that iron-fisted monopoly. The 5 princes of the Great Ming felt this most acutely. Their combined force of 150 Earth Xian warriors was second only to Ming Kong in numbers, but they lacked top-tier combat power. Without a half-step heavenly Yuan master, they could not hope to stand against Ming Kong. If they could win over Jiang Qiankun, their crisis would be resolved. Furthermore, before entering the cave, Jiang Qiankun had explicitly expressed his loyalty to them. The second prince spoke up decisively. Brother Jiang Qiankun, would you consider an alliance? Together, we would be an impenetrable force, feared by all. If we secure the true demon crystal, we shall share it. Furthermore, we promise that regardless of the outcome, each of the 5 princes will gift you a Tao medicine afterward. Jiang Qiankun's pace faltered slightly. He turned to glance at the second prince and the other 4 hopeful brothers. A look of pure disdain flashed in his demon-haunted eyes. He gave a wicked, twisted smile. You aren't worthy. The faces of the 5 princes instantly sold. They burned with hidden resentment. What was he so proud of? He was a man with no allies. No matter how strong he was, 2 fists could not stop 1,000 hands. Without their help, he would never claim the crystal. Ignoring everyone else, Jiang Qiankun continued his walk through the air, heading straight for Jiang Xuan. In this moment, his eyes held only one person. No one understood the sheer depth of the hatred he harbored for Jiang Xuan. From the ancestral trials where his inheritance was stolen and his position as young patriarch was usurped, to the royal city where Jiang Xuan took his appearance to slaughter the Zhao family and move the Jixia Academy, to the true God secret realm where Jiang Xuan used his name to commit outrages and seize opportunities, leaving him to face the infamy and disaster. If that were all, he might have endured it. But even when he shouldered the blame back at the Jiang family and brought them glory, the elders remained blind. They still refused to give him the title of young patriarch. Then came the assassination attempt by the demon race that nearly took his life. Inside the ascending heaven tower, he was kicked out of the trial by the rebellious immortal, and Zhao Fuyao had abandoned him. Now, he had only 3 years to live and had turned against the Yin Yang Saint Lord. He was utterly alone, with no one to rely on. He could not return to the Yin Yang sacred ground, and he was likely unwelcome in the Jiang family. He was like a stray dog abandoned by the world. All of this was Jiang Xuan's fault. Without Jiang Xuan, he would not be in this wretched state. He would be the saint son of the Yin Yang sacred ground and the young patriarch of the Jiang family, famous throughout the profound heaven continent and respected by all. 100 feet away from Jiang Xuan, Jiang Qiankun stopped. He stood suspended in midair as the demonic runes on his body whirled frantically. Massive waves of demonic energy churned around him. A terrifying, violent pressure shot into the sky, ravaging the surroundings. His cold, demonic eyes looked down upon Jiang Xuan, who was still disguised as Jiang Bei. He did not look frenzied. There was no visible anger or hatred. In fact, he showed no emotion at all. He simply stared at Jiang Xuan with a flat, dead intensity. Jiang Xuan met his gaze, narrowing his eyes slightly. He felt a flicker of genuine surprise. He hadn't expected Jiang Qiankun to reach such heights. A half-step heavenly Yuan was truly remarkable, placing him among the absolute top tier of geniuses. The man had some real skill after all. Not bad, Jiang Xuan said with a chuckle. You've reached the half-step heavenly Yuan realm. Jiang Qiankun's face remained a mask of indifference. I owe it all to you. You're quite welcome. Jiang Qiankun froze. The violent impulses he had fought to suppress came roaring back. His carefully maintained calm shattered as rage and hatred erupted. He had thought he could treat Jiang Xuan like an ant to be crushed at will. He certainly had the power now. But facing him in person, he realized he couldn't maintain his composure. Jiang Xuan's very existence toyed with his emotions. Until Jiang Xuan was dead, he would never know peace. No more words are needed. Today, you die by my hand, Jiang Qiankun growled. His demonic intent surged, and the world seemed to grow darker. Jiang Xuan shrugged and gave a light smile. You're stealing my lines. No. Perhaps it was the casual joke that snapped Jiang Qiankun's nerves, reminding him of everything Jiang Xuan had taken. His eyes flew open as demonic flames and fury poured out of him like a beast from the abyss. The sheer volume of killing intent was enough to make the heart turn cold. You are the one who stole everything from me. With a low roar, Jiang Qiankun's massive, rune-covered body seemed to grow even larger. With his ancient Dao blade in hand, he transformed into a bolt of black lightning. He cut through the void and appeared instantly before Jiang Xuan, bringing the blade down with both hands in a devastating arc. Boom! The blade struck the ground, splitting the earth into a 100-foot-long trench filled with overflowing demonic mist. That was a good strike. Jiang Xuan's voice drifted from 10 feet behind him. You've got some skill. You are in no position to judge my strength, Jiang Qiankun spat. Before the sound of his voice even faded, he vanished and reappeared in front of Jiang Xuan, slashing down again. The demonic energy was like a rainbow of darkness, tearing the void and forcing the laws of the world to retreat. A terrifying, suffocating aura spread outward. Jiang Xuan's smile didn't fade. He drew his green blade from behind his back and met the attack with an effortless flick. The supreme sword domain condensed at the tip of his blade, cleanly severing Jiang Qiankun's strike. If you don't like compliments, I'll give you the truth instead. That strike was actually quite pathetic. Jiang Xian's figure flickered through the void. Every time he appeared, he unleashed a sharp burst of sword chi that annihilated the surrounding demonic energy and laws. "Shut up!" Jiang Qiankun screamed, his dark shadow fluttering as he desperately tried to catch Jiang Xian. For a moment, the world was a sea of black demonic energy and frost-white sword chi. Sensing a chance to play with his opponent, Jiang Xian didn't exert much effort. He remained in a constant state of evasion, occasionally striking only to dismantle Jiang Qiankun's techniques. To the onlookers, the scene was baffling. Jiang Xian was only at the 8th level of the Earth Xian realm. His strength should have been far inferior to a half-step heavenly Yuan master. Why was Jiang Qiankun unable to take him down? Was he holding back? There seemed to be no reason for it. Chapter 281. You are seeking death. Why was Jiang Qiankun still holding back? The gathered geniuses and eccentrics watched the display with mounting confusion. Rumors throughout the world suggested that this Jiang Bei was an ancestral bloodline prodigy, the true chosen successor of the Jiang family. According to the gossip, the current nominal successor, Jiang Xian, was merely a shield to draw fire. Even though Jiang Qiankun had carved out a formidable reputation for himself in the true God's secret realm, he had failed to change the internal decisions of the Jiang family or shake Jiang Bei's standing. It stood to reason that there was an irreconcilable conflict of interest between the two. Furthermore, Jiang Qiankun had clearly gained massive power and appeared to have succumbed to demonic influence. Given his erratic and reckless behavior, he should have no reason to hesitate. Why wasn't he ending this quickly and slaughtering the troublesome Jiang Bei? With the exit gate in Jiang Bei's hands, disaster was only a matter of time. Why did you never mention such a powerful genius? The gray-robed youth whispered a sharp question to Ming Kong. His deep eyes burned with suppressed anger. He had taken a liking to Jiang Qiankun's natural talent. If he could possess that body, his current combat strength would increase by at least 50%. Jiang Bei was a suitable vessel, but Jiang Qiankun was clearly a superior specimen. Yet Ming Kong had brought neither of them before the group until now. Ming Kong lowered his eyes. It was my oversight. He could hardly explain that before entering the demon cave, Jiang Qiankun had been nothing more than an empty shell, nowhere near this level of power. In the eyes of these masters, he was merely a dog, and a dog had no right to make excuses. The gray-robed youth snorted coldly before issuing a command. Try to make contact. Bring this Jiang Qiankun into our camp. If we can convert him to the Underworld Race, he will be a significant asset for the current stage of our plan. Understood, Ming Kong replied with a nod. When will the reincarnated Underworld soldiers arrive? Ming Kong sensed the position of Wang Su and replied, they are hidden 100 miles away. They can strike at any moment. The gray-robed youth nodded slightly. Do it. Use this opportunity to clear out these geniuses. We need to prevent any interference when we move to claim the true demon crystal. Yes. Without warning, Ming Kong stepped forward and unleashed a massive strike, aiming his palm at the nearest faction. As his hand fell, the world trembled violently. The terrifying physical strength of the Underworld Race, bolstered by the momentum of heaven and earth, formed a crushing weight as immovable as a divine mountain. Rumble. The earth shattered and blood sprayed into the air. 5 geniuses in the mid to late stages of the Earth Xian realm didn't even have time to react before they were crushed into a bloody pulp beneath Ming Kong's palm. Under the terrified gaze of the crowd, Ming Kong stood high in the sky. His expression was indifferent as he looked down on the surroundings. He gave a cold order to his 300 Earth Xian followers and the personal agents he had brought into the cave. Clear the area. Anyone who does not retreat is to be executed without mercy. As you command. The 300 warriors answered in a roar that shook the clouds. In an instant, they lunged forward, using a dazzling array of Taoist arts and divine techniques to assault the various factions. Ming Kong, you have gone too far. Furious and startled, the other groups rushed to defend themselves. Countless mysterious laws of the Tao, sword chi, and blade light chaotically filled the air. The void shook, mountains swayed, and the earth cracked open. The chaotic war ignited by Jiang Qiankun had officially begun in earnest. Naturally, the chaos swept toward the group, including Ming Fan and Jiang Xuan. They were forced to engage, fighting side by side to cut down their attackers. Though their numbers were few, their individual combat prowess was exceptional. They moved through the melee with practiced ease. Ming Fan's 7-aperture exquisite heart glowed, surrounded by the laws of the scholar's path. His words manifested as literal weapons, his tongue and thoughts serving as sharp blades that decapitated enemies in rapid succession. However, the situation still left him uneasy. Ming Kong and the 9 half-step heavenly Yuan masters behind him had not yet joined the fray. They were the true threat. While Ming Fan and his allies could manage the current pressure, once Ming Kong's main force descended, they would likely be unable to hold the line. I don't understand. Why is Brother Jiang still holding back? After using 10 scholar energy swords to slay 3 mid-stage Earth Xian geniuses, Ming Fan couldn't help but turn to Jiang Xuan. He didn't believe for a moment that Jiang Qiankun actually posed a threat to Jiang Xian, but prolonging the fight was becoming a problem. In their group, only Jiang Xuan had the power to face Ming Kong head-on. Rumble. Jiang Qian swung the ancient gate like a massive club, smashing one Earth Xian genius after another. He took a moment to reply. Your Highness, there is no need to worry. Jiang Qiankun is strong, but he is far from being a match for the young master. The fact that the young master hasn't killed him yet means he must have his own reasons. I hope so, Ming Fan muttered. He pushed his exquisite heart to its limits, manifesting phantoms of war to help alleviate the pressure on his eldest sister and the others. The battle raged on, drawing everyone into its heart. The death toll rose rapidly. Although the various factions were disorganized, their sheer numbers gave them some defensive capability against the 300 underworld followers. With a powerhouse like Jiang Xuan slaughtering his way through the ranks, the battle was slowly turning in their favor. It wasn't an absolute suppression yet, but they were holding their own. Of course, this was only because Ming Kong and the 9 half-step heavenly Yuan masters were still watching from above. Standing high in the sky, Ming Kong's eyes remained deep and his expression calm. The deaths of his own followers didn't cause even a flicker of emotion. This was exactly what he intended. Over half of those 300 warriors were geniuses who had pledged to follow him. Since they were his, they might as well die once and be fully converted into underworld soldiers. Only then could he be certain of their absolute loyalty. The geniuses from the Desolate Heaven sect were also fighting hard. Each possessed remarkable combat strength, ensuring they didn't fall behind in the chaos. Luo Xinglan, however, had not yet made a move. She kept a close eye on the battle between her lord and Jiang Qiankun. While she found it strange that the lord was evading rather than ending the fight, she didn't overthink it. Influenced by the memories of her past life, she viewed the lord as omnipotent. A half-step heavenly Yuan master like Jiang Qiankun was nothing more than a ripple in a pond to him. For now, her focus was on Ming Kong. She had to prevent him from further harming the human race in collaboration with the Underworld Race. Among everyone present, besides the lord, she was likely the only one with the strength to restrain him. At that moment, Ming Kong moved. He charged toward Jiang Xuan. Jiang Qiankun appeared to have grown stronger, but to Ming Kong, he was still a waste. It was absurd that a half-step heavenly Yuan master would struggle so much against someone at the 8th level of the Earth Xian realm. Ming Kong remembered that Jiang Xuan had killed 12 of his underworld guards with a single sword, but he still didn't believe Jiang Xuan's power was truly transcendent. At most, he assumed the boy was a top-tier genius. If Jiang Qiankun couldn't solve the problem, it simply meant Jiang Qiankun wasn't as strong as he looked. Seeing Ming Kong move, Luo Xinglan narrowed her eyes. She transformed into a streak of ghostly blue light to intercept him. Boom. A ghostly blue frost froze the void. Ming Kong's momentum stalled. He thrust out his pale right hand to stop the advance of Luo Xinglan's divine technique. He looked up, his eyes cold as they locked onto her, flashing with murderous intent. You are seeking death. Chapter 282, Jiang Xian's Rage. With a sudden blur of motion, Ming Kong transformed into a streak of deathly white light. He pierced through the void and appeared instantly before Luo Xinglan. He thrust a palm forward, carrying a chilling aura and the twisted energy of the Underworld Race. So you truly have been reborn as an underworld creature, Luo Xinglan said. Her eyes flickered with a cold light. She moved with fluid precision, drawing upon the laws of heaven and earth to manifest a massive glacier. It loomed over the landscape, locking down the surrounding space to restrict Ming Kong's movements. Simultaneously, she lunged forward, unleashing a fierce killing art wrapped in a brilliant, ghostly blue radiance. A series of violent explosions shook the sky and earth. The glacier shattered, sending ice shards flying in every direction. Ming Kong broke through her technique, yet the force of the collision pushed him back several miles. Ming Kong steadied himself and glared at Luo Xinglan, his expression darkening. She was only at the 9th level of the Earth Xian realm, not even at the peak, yet she had successfully repelled his attack. She was no ordinary opponent. Luo Xinglan, goddess of the desolate heaven? Ming Kong let out a cold snort. Since you are on good terms with Jiang Qiankun, why block my path now? This will bring you no benefit. I owe you no explanation for my actions, Luo Xinglan replied. Her voice was icy and detached. Her figure became ethereal as she unleashed a relentless barrage of strikes, each accompanied by that same ghostly blue glow. Ming Kong was forced into a defensive stance. Even with the formidable physical strength of the Underworld Race, he felt a stinging pain from her blows. Frost began to form on his skin, slowing his movements. The profound Yin sacred body lives up to its reputation, Ming Kong remarked. His fighting style grew even more vicious. Every punch and palm strike carried a colossal force capable of shattering laws, backed by a sinister energy that began to corrode Luo Xinglan's connection to the Great Tao. In truth, only Jiang Qiankun was fighting with everything he had. Jiang Xuan remained elusive, showing no immediate intent to kill. He was curious about how his scapegoat had improved so rapidly. After all, Jiang Xuan had fought through countless hardships to reach the 8th level of the Earth Xian realm. Yet this man, who seemed to have put in no effort at all, was already at the half-step heavenly Yuan stage. It made no sense. Jiang Xuan parried an attack and sent Jiang Qiankun stumbling back with a flick of his sword. "You really do have incredible luck," he said, a hint of genuine annoyance in his voice. Jiang Qiankun was already consumed by rage, and those words caused him to snap completely. "Luck? I've been your shadow and your target, and you call that luck? You go too far." Jiang Qiankun roared. His black hair whipped wildly in the wind as demonic runes pulsed across his skin. Demonic energy erupted from him like a volcanic explosion, forming a towering wall of flame. He looked like a demon king who had lost all reason. His bloodline, now at 80% concentration, began to boil. Distorted phantoms appeared around him, screaming with a hatred that seemed to shake the very foundations of the world. "Die!" Jiang Qiankun lunged forward, each heavy footstep wreathed in demonic fire. He reached into his own bloodline to summon those hideous phantoms, coating them in his dark flames to transform them into great calamities. They lunged at Jiang Xuan, a mass of resentment and killing intent so thick it made the sky tremble and the void ripple. This was a technique he had taken from a demonic soul, and it was easily the equal of any saint-level inheritance. After refining the essence of the Jiang family disciples he had slain, he had imprisoned their souls within his own blood, nurturing them with spite until they became powerful wraiths. Each one possessed strength comparable to the Earth Xian realm. Jiang Xuan narrowed his eyes. A sudden wave of nausea washed over him. His own blood began to surge in response, glowing with a thick, golden light of holiness. A bloodline domain expanded from him, radiating an aura of absolute authority that weighed down on everyone nearby. Why did he feel this disgust? Why was his blood so angry? What exactly were these phantoms Jiang Qiankun had summoned? Jiang Xuan activated a reincarnation technique, focusing its power into his eyes to peer into Jiang Qiankun's true nature. What he saw sent him into a towering rage. He saw the images of Jiang Qiankun refining his fellow disciples and devouring their essence. Those wraiths were the souls of the Jiang family. Now he understood exactly how Jiang Qiankun had gained his strength. Jiang Xuan's eyes turned dark and sharp. He became a blur of light, charging directly at Jiang Qiankun. His green blade moved in a blur, and his sword domain locked down the heavens. Thousands of sword breaths swirled through the air, instantly shredding the demonic pressure Jiang Qiankun had built up. As a member of the Jiang family, you dared to murder your own kin? Jiang Qiankun, you truly deserve to die. Jiang Xuan shouted his condemnation as he swung his sword again. The world seemed to lose its color, turning into a void of pure white. An indescribable sword intent filled the air, causing the very laws of the Tao to bow in submission. The chaotic battlefield fell into a sudden, eerie silence. Everything seemed to freeze, except for Jiang Xuan's blade, which moved toward Jiang Qiankun with a speed that defied logic. It appeared slow, as if the world had stopped, yet it was so fast that it was impossible to track. It was simultaneously miles away and right at his throat. Jiang Qiankun's heart hammered against his ribs. A sudden, primal terror gripped him. Jiang Xuan's power was far beyond anything he had imagined. How could someone at the 8th level of the Earth Xian realm produce a strike this terrifying? It's an illusion. It must be. I am a half-step heavenly Yuan master. I have mastered the demonic path and forged a supreme demonic body. I am the greatest genius of this age. Jiang Xuan cannot be stronger than me. So what if I killed them? Jiang Qiankun screamed, his voice thick with madness. They owed me. The whole family owed me. This is all because of you. Everything is because of you. His eyes were blood red. He charged directly into the path of the sword, his demonic energy burning with a desperate intensity. I will see you dead. A series of thunderous crashes rang out as demonic energy clashed with sword intent. The sky seemed to split open, and laws of the great Tao were sent spiraling in 1,000 directions. Then, everything stopped. Jiang Xuan's sword was resting against Jiang Qiankun's throat. Jiang Qiankun's body, once covered in proud demonic runes, was now riddled with countless fine sword wounds. Blood began to spray from the cuts, soaking his clothes in an instant. Chapter 283. Executing Jiang Qiankun. How can you be this strong? Under the shadow of death, Jiang Qiankun's madness receded. A strange calm took hold. He forcibly suppressed the twisted resentment and hatred boiling within him. To show impotent rage was a sign of weakness, and he refused to look pathetic in front of Jiang Xuan. Even if it was a facade, he would meet his end with defiance. You underestimated me, Jiang Xuan said, his voice cold and his killing intent naked. But more than that, you overestimated yourself. You should never have laid a finger on your own kin. In the world of cultivation, deception and greed were common. Murdering others for their treasures was a daily occurrence. But there was a baseline for being human that could not be crossed. To betray one's own blood was a crime that deserved nothing less than death. History is written by the victors, Jiang Qiankun said with a cold laugh. He did not know how Jiang Xuan had discovered his crimes, but it no longer mattered. He felt no guilt. His only regret was that he had not grown strong enough. He should have waited until he claimed the true demon crystal and attained absolute power before seeking his revenge. If I had one today, I would still be the most celebrated genius of the Jiang family. Everything you took from me would have naturally returned to my hands. However, if I were the one with a blade at your throat, I would not waste my breath on such self-righteous talk. Jiang Qiankun looked directly at Jiang Xuan, a wicked smile spreading across his face. You make me sick. The various factions caught in the melee stopped to witness the scene. Shock rippled through the crowd. Jiang Bei had actually won. Jiang Qiankun was at the half-step heavenly Yuan realm. By all rights, he should be ranked among the top 10 on the hidden dragon list. Yet, Jiang Bei had suppressed him with apparent ease. It made no sense. How much power was Jiang Bei hiding? The more they encountered him, the more they realized they couldn't see the bottom of his strength. An ancestral bloodline prodigy, the preordained young patriarch. Only now did they truly understand the terrifying weight of those titles. No wonder Jiang Qiankun, for all his newfound power, could never overcome him. There had always been an unbridgeable chasm between them. Damn it! The 5 allied princes, struggling to fend off Ming Kong's forces, felt a wave of bitter regret. They had completely misread the situation, letting that boy Ming Fan claim the ultimate prize. We never should have kept our distance from him just because we feared Ming Kong. Now we have to face Ming Kong anyway, and we've lost any chance of recruiting a monster like Jiang Bei. Boom. Ming Kong repelled Luo Xinglan with a single palm strike. He glanced toward Jiang Xuan and spoke in a freezing tone. Jiang Bei, spare Jiang Qiankun's life, and I may allow you to live. He didn't actually care if Jiang Qiankun lived or died, but the underworld ancestors had a use for the boy. Ming Kong didn't mind putting in a word for him to score points with his superiors. Besides, a Jiang Qiankun who had walked the demonic path was a decent asset. Subjugating him would add to Ming Kong's prestige. Furthermore, everyone present was destined to be reborn as underworld soldiers. Jiang Bei was no exception. Ming Kong could technically keep his word and let him live, but the nature of that life would depend entirely on his whim. Ha! Jiang Qiankun let out a jubilant shout. Prince Ming Kong, please save me. I am willing to submit to you. From this day forward, I will go through fire and water at your command. He turned back to Jiang Xuan, his face twisted in a sneer. Now what will you do? I may have lost, but with Prince Ming Kong protecting me, you wouldn't dare kill me. Is that so? With a swift flick of his blade, Jiang Xuan severed Jiang Qiankun's head and held it up toward Ming Kong. Allow me to live, so you can refine me into a half-human, half-ghost creature like yourself? Looking at Jiang Qiankun's severed head, which still wore a lingering sneer, Ming Kong's eyes erupted with fury. He glared at Jiang Xuan, his face darkening into a mask of cold malice. It seems you know quite a bit. The 9 gray-robed youths standing motionless in the air frowned. Their expressions shifted as they focused on Jiang Xuan with a mix of wariness and killing intent. Their grand plan for the Underworld Race could not be leaked. If the truth got out, it could trigger unforeseen complications. Jiang Xuan chuckled. Your plan is simple. Betray humanity, side with the Underworld Race, and set a trap in the Demon Cave. You want to turn everyone here into puppets you can command so you can secretly control every major power in the world. It is the same old story. Every traitor in history has followed the same script. And you want me to spare Jiang Qiankun? If you have that much free time, you should spend it worrying about whether your grand betrayal will actually succeed. The geniuses and warriors scattered across the battlefield looked on in disbelief. As they pushed back their opponents, they turned their eyes toward Ming Kong with growing hostility and rage. They might fight and kill one another for the true demon crystal, but they were still human. They still possessed the conscience and pride of their race. If Ming Kong had truly betrayed humanity, then the meaning of today's battle had changed. The true demon crystal could be abandoned, but Ming Kong and the invaders he served had to die. Countless ancestors had sacrificed their lives to secure peace for this generation. As the descendants who enjoyed the shade of the trees their forefathers planted, they had a duty to defend what had been won with blood. Ming Kong, you are playing with fire. The faces of the 5 princes paled, turning as dark as stagnant water. They knew of the Underworld Race's existence. In fact, the great Ming immortal dynasty owed much of its rise to the secret support of that race. However, the Ming family had long since planned to break free from their influence. The current emperor had been particularly aggressive, purging every underworld agent from the dynasty's ranks. They never imagined Ming Kong would defy the imperial will and collude with them, inviting the wolf into the house. The Underworld Race's evil intentions are clear for all to see. The emperor warned us they are not allies. Bolstered by his half-step heavenly Yuan cultivation, his aura felt like a dark, bottomless abyss. It hung heavy over the battlefield, pressing down on the hearts of everyone present. Ming Kong speaks for the Underworld Race. His words are our stance, the youth declared. We welcome you all to join us. Today, anyone who voluntarily swears fealty will be rewarded with a divine herb and a saint-level cultivation technique. Their original plan had been to slaughter everyone and convert them into underworld soldiers. However, direct recruitment promised a far greater return. Turning the living into soldiers consumed massive resources and drained the subjects of their potential, rendering them little more than mindless husks. Furthermore, exterminating such a large group of talented individuals would require significant effort and manpower. The spatial tunnels between the underworld and the profound heaven continent were still unstable, limiting the number of reinforcements they could bring through. If it were not for these constraints, they would not have gone to such lengths to secure the great Ming throne from Ming Kong. Recruiting these geniuses would solve their manpower shortage instantly. New recruits could either serve as vessels for the remnant souls of underworld ancestors or merge their bodies with underworld essence to become full members of the race, much like Ming Kong had done. Either way, it was a profitable arrangement. The battlefield fell into a heavy silence. The fighting stopped as the gathered geniuses struggled to suppress their fury. They stared at Ming Kong and the gray-robed youths with venomous eyes. The realization finally dawned on them. These 9 elite prodigies from the top sects of the Central Divine Province had long since been possessed by the Underworld Race. Everything was a trap. Even the opening of the Demon Cave had likely been a calculated move by Ming Kong and his dark allies. Ming Kong saw their boiling anger and let out a soft, mocking laugh. Foolish people always needed a bit of force before they would make the right choice. Why insist on doing things the hard way? Ming Kong asked. He gestured toward Wang Su. Receiving the signal, Wang Su led over 5,000 underworld soldiers forward in a rapid surge. The combined aura of 5,000 warriors shook the heavens and moved the mountains. A thick, suffocating mist of killing intent billowed upward, piercing the clouds. Within moments, they had completely encircled the remaining survivors. The soldiers, their eyes glowing with a sinister red light, stood like a jagged mountain range cutting across the horizon. Their collective pressure fell over the field like a physical weight, plunging the world into sudden darkness. The survivors trembled. Panic and fear took root in their hearts, not just because of the sheer numbers or the crushing power, but because of the faces they saw approaching them. Many of these soldiers were familiar. These were comrades and rivals who had already died in the cave. Yet here they were, reanimated as puppets, raising their weapons against their own kind. The unknown and the unnatural sparked a primal terror. They could fight to the death against Ming Kong and the invaders. But if death meant becoming a puppet for the enemy, what was the point of dying for humanity? For some, surrender began to look like the only path to peace. I will give you a moment to forgive yourselves, Ming Kong said with a light chuckle. Lay down your pride, ignore your conscience, and surrender to your survival instincts. His gaze shifted to Luo Xinglan. Seeing that she still refused to back down, his eyes narrowed into cold slits. Do not throw away the mercy I have shown you. He blurred into a streak of motion, using the power of his Dao domain to seal her paths of retreat. He struck out with a palm, manifesting thousands of starving, malevolent spirits. They lunged at Luo Xinglan, bypassing her profound Yin sacred body's defenses and beginning to tear at her flesh. These spirits ignored her icy elemental techniques, either negating them entirely or devouring the energy. Luo Xinglan's expression remained unchanged. Her slender fingers danced through the air, weaving threads of ancient, primordial energy. A dim, yellow glow erupted around her, the oldest energy in the universe, carrying a supreme authority. This power manifested as an indescribable weight that instantly obliterated the thousands of spirits. Ming Kong froze. He stared at her with genuine surprise. This was an underworld technique specifically designed to threaten established heavenly Yuan masters. For her to neutralize it so easily was unexpected. The goddess of the desolate heaven is indeed extraordinary, Ming Kong praised. Then, a smirk crossed his face. My harem is missing a mistress. Why not follow me? When I take the throne of great Ming, you shall be the empress, standing above millions. With my help, the position of master of the desolate heaven sect will be yours as well. Luo Xinglan instinctively glanced at Jiang Xuan. Then, she laughed, a sharp, freezing sound. You are not worthy. Her profound Yin sacred body erupted with power. She summoned an ancient cauldron into her palm, its surface flickering with primordial runes and a yellow glow that radiated a majestic, boundless aura. With the cauldron in hand, she became her own world. Desolate heaven, she cried. Her momentum surged several times over, her aura transforming until she resembled a goddess of war. Each step she took shattered the void. With the cauldron in her left hand, her right hand manipulated the laws of the world. With one finger, glaciers fell. With the second, the void froze. With the third, the world turned to frost. Ming Kong's expression shifted. He dropped all pretense of arrogance and braced himself. Her cultivation was only at the 9th level of the Earth Xian realm, but her combat strength was nearly equal to his own. He unleashed his full power, tapping into the limits of his underworld physique to meet her assault. The impact split the earth and sent snow and ice spiraling into the sky. The resulting shockwaves shattered the void, creating deep, dark fissures in space. While Ming Kong and Luo Xinglan were locked in combat, the The gray-robed youth and his companions continued to wait for the other geniuses to respond. They were in no rush. Even if Luo Xinglan could match Ming Kong, she was only one person. There were 9 others standing there with power equal to Ming Kong's. They stood at the front with absolute strength, while 5,000 soldiers held the rear. Everyone trapped in the center was a bird in a cage. Surrender was only a matter of time. Jiang Bei, the youth said, looking at Jiang Xuan. If you set the example and submit first, I will see to it that you and the Jiang family rule the Eastern Divine Province once the Underworld Race takes this world. Chapter 285, Sort Out, Kill. An example? Jiang Xuan smiled, but his expression remained deathly cold. Very well, I shall set an example. As those words left his lips, the expressions of the gathered geniuses and eccentrics twisted. Their top combat strength was already significantly weaker than that of Ming Kong and the Underworld Race. Now that they were surrounded, their chances of escape were nearly non-existent. If Jiang Bei surrendered, all hope for recovery would be lost. Currently, only the goddess of the desolate heaven, Luo Xinglan, and this Jiang Bei possessed the combat power to rival a half-step heavenly Yuan master. Were they truly destined to surrender and submit to the underworld? The gray-robed youth displayed a satisfied smile. This boy was arrogant, but he was practical. He understood the stakes. Jiang Bei's strength was undeniable. He had slain Jiang Qiankun with a single sword, and at a conservative estimate, he possessed the top-tier power required to challenge a heavenly Yuan master. Even if the gray-robed youth and his companions moved to suppress him, it would likely take significant effort. Now that he was showing sense by surrendering and offering to lead the others, the execution of their plan would be much smoother. But in that heartbeat, a brilliant white light suddenly erupted between heaven and earth. It was like the peak of noon, a blinding radiance that masked everything in all directions. Even the deep, pitch-black seal of the true demon land nearby seemed to lose its color against this overwhelming whiteness. A sword. In the pupils of everyone present, only a single, indescribable sword remained. It was majestic and boundless, as if it carried the weight of the 4 seas and the 8 wildernesses. Upon its flawless blade were ridges and furrows resembling mountains and rivers, upon which billions of hazy human figures appeared in a display of staggering vastness. A grand, awe-inspiring will radiated from the weapon, stirring a sense of shared honor and disgrace within the hearts of everyone present. It felt as if this single strike carried their collective beliefs and courage. It wrapped itself in their visions and hopes, gathering their fury and hatred toward the Underworld Race. In short, this sword became the vessel for their collective will, delivering a blood-and-iron judgment of absolute authority. Kill. At that moment, through the medium of this sword, the gathered geniuses felt as if they had been transported into the infinite past. They stood side by side with the human ancestors on the front lines against the ancient invasions. They raised their weapons and let out a roar that swallowed the mountains and rivers, directed at the sky full of alien beings. Kill, kill, kill. It was impossible to tell who started it, but a roar fueled by every ounce of strength echoed through the world. The sound shook the void, managing to disperse a portion of the deep demonic clouds shrouding the sky. Beneath this sword of blinding light, the 10,000 miles surrounding the battlefield fell into a vacuum of silence. Everyone's mind experienced a brief moment of stagnation, as if time had been frozen and their souls emptied. In the next breath, the latent blood of the geniuses was ignited by that mysterious will. Inspired by the visions of their ancestors, they roared in a magnificent, surging chorus like boiling rivers. This was the sword of humanity. It was the manifestation of the people's heart, bolstered by their collective will. The power of Jiang Xuan's strike surged once more. It sliced through the frozen time and space like a divine mountain collapsing from the heavens or a star exploding in the sky. An indescribable force gathered at the tip of the blade, condensing into rules of pure destruction. The sword fell. The gray-robed youth, standing at the forefront, suffered a sudden and violent change in expression. An unprovoked, primal terror enveloped him, filling every corner of his mind and body. This uncontrollable fear caused his frame to tremble. What kind of sword technique is this? He had never seen its like. He had never even heard of such a thing. The terrifying power it contained had already far exceeded the limits of the Earth-Xian realm. Even in his past life, when he had stood at the rank of a true god, he had never witnessed a strike so formidable. It was not that the raw power of this sword exceeded the true god level, but rather that the mysterious and vast intent within it surpassed his understanding. In other words, the fundamental grade of this technique was impossibly high. How could a mere Earth-Xian cultivator master such a sword? It was an absurdity beyond belief. Facing this strike, the youth felt a life-and-death crisis unlike any before. He hurriedly summoned his ultimate life-saving measures. Numerous sinister Dao runes surged forth, forming a grim and mournful ghost domain around him. The air filled with high-pitched, piercing shrieks that made the skin crawl. Within this domain, his physical body began to transform. His blood ceased to flow, and his skin turned a pale, sickly white. radiating the chilling aura of the dead. His hands formed a seal, and his twisted energy coalesced into a translucent, sallow life talisman. The talisman swayed in the wind, rippling with a cold, fallen, and evil aura that seemed capable of shaking the cycle of reincarnation. It was a power designed to usurp destiny and erase a person from existence. As the talisman manifested, a sense of despair took root in the hearts of those nearby. It felt as if death had already arrived, leaving them with no choice but to wait for the end. This is not my original underworld body, and my cultivation is only at the half-step heavenly Yuan level. I can only exert 0.5% of the fate-resting art's power. The gray-robed youth was dissatisfied, but he felt it would be enough. He had been a true god in his prime, a master of the great Tao. Even 0.5% of this art should be sufficient to strip away the destiny of a heavenly Yuan genius and erase them entirely. To execute Jiang Bei, who was only in the Earth Xian realm, it was more than enough. Brat, I will show you exactly how foolish your resistance is. He let out a cold snort and drove the life talisman forward. Sunder. The talisman flew out, carrying a twisted power that seemed to travel through time and enter another dimension. Everything in the world appeared to stall, locked into that single moment. Only the flying talisman moved, using its grotesque strength to forcibly drag out Jiang Xian's destiny to destroy it. The youth smiled with absolute confidence. The fate-resting art was the innate secret technique of the Underworld Race, involving the highest mysteries of destiny. It was the foundation of their tribe's existence and the source of their enduring strength. Even during the darkest eras for the various races, when humanity ruled the heavens, the Underworld Race had preserved its might through this supreme inheritance. In fact, the super array they had laid over the demon cave to refine corpses into soldiers was based on this very art. Even their ability to possess others without changing the original aura was thanks to this power. As an innate secret technique, its divine might was no weaker than an emperor-level art. In some respects, it was even superior. Jiang Bei had proven his talent by forcing this move, but the moment the fate-resting art was deployed, his life had reached its end. No one could withstand the sundering of their fate. But the moment the life talisman caught hold of Jiang Xian's destiny, the youth's face changed. His already pale features turned ashen, and a look of indescribable horror surfaced, as if he were staring at an unnameable monstrosity. A storm of shock erupted in his heart, shattering his composure. He stood there, dazed and frozen, unable to regain his senses for a long time. How is this possible? Chapter 286. The demeanor of a sword immortal. The moment was fleeting. As soon as Jiang Xian's fate was snatched, the sallow life talisman was violently torn apart by an invisible hand, crumbling into fine dust. The gray-robed youth remained trapped in a paralyzing state of shock and terror, unable to break free. The dimension of stagnant time and space created by his fate-resting art vanished instantly. The sword finally fell. Carrying the collective will of every genius present, the strike passed through the youth's body in a silent, blinding flash. Chilling sword intent transformed into white radiance, erupting from within him and shooting toward the heavens. His body came apart, piece by piece, raining down upon the earth. He was a top-tier prodigy possessed by an underworld ancestor, a master at the half-step heavenly Yuan realm. Yet, under Jiang Qian's single strike, he perished on the spot. The entire battlefield turned as silent as a graveyard. Whether it was the gathered geniuses, the 8 remaining underworld ancestors, or the 5,000 soldiers led by Wang Su, everyone stood frozen in disbelief. They knew Jiang Qian possessed formidable combat strength after he slew Jiang Qiankun, but the reality was far more terrifying than they had imagined. To kill an underworld ancestor in a single blow was unthinkable. The youth had not only possessed half-step heavenly Yuan cultivation, but had also commanded the power of the great Tao and utilized a forbidden secret art. Despite all of that, he could not withstand a single strike. How could Jiang Qian be this strong? Even more incomprehensible was how his sword could stir their own emotions, drawing their very wills into the attack. No one had ever seen such a technique. Ming Fan stood with his mouth agape. Even though he had witnessed Jiang Qian's brilliance before, his heart raced with an excitement he could barely describe. His 7-aperture exquisite heart throbbed in his chest as if it were cheering. In this moment, he felt once again like he was truly meeting his friend for the first time. Jiang Qian was too powerful and far too mysterious. Within that sword strike, Ming Fan had glimpsed the vast silhouettes of human ancestors. He felt as if he had dreamed of a grand era where humanity flourished, standing on the front lines against 10,000 races. The feeling of carrying the world's fate was incredibly real and set his blood on fire. He became more certain than ever that his own rapid mastery of the exquisite heart and his breakthrough to the great scholar realm were no accidents. It all came from Jiang Qian. The 8 underworld ancestors exchanged looks, their expressions of indifference replaced by gloom and dread. The feeling of losing control was beginning to panic them. Originally, even after their scheme was exposed, they remained confident. They had superior numbers, ample preparation, and the ability to turn everyone into puppets. But Jiang Xuan was an anomaly. His fate was strange and ancient, capable of resisting the fate-wresting art and even crushing the life talisman with a backlash. Such a thing had never happened in the history of their race. Fate was determined by the heavens. It evolved as one reached higher realms and could not be altered by human effort. Not even a being far above a true god could easily touch the mysteries of destiny. This was their ultimate trump card for dominating the demon cave. They believed they could erase anyone, even a heavenly Yuan genius, by sundering their fate. Instead, they had been humiliated by a boy at the 8th level of the Earth Xian realm. His combat power defied the laws of the world. A veteran heavenly Yuan master would have to use every secret technique in their arsenal just to face that sword head-on. To them, his recorded cultivation level was a mere illusion. He had to be treated as a heavenly Yuan powerhouse. Worse, their fate-wresting art was useless against him and would only result in a lethal backlash. Ming Kong, stop wasting time with Luo Xinglan. One of the youths shouted, join us and kill this boy first. The 8 ancestors summoned their highest-grade Dao weapons and lunged at Jiang Xuan. If secret arts failed, they would rely on absolute martial force. While his power was immense, he was still facing 9 half-step heavenly Yuan masters. Surely, he could not maintain such high-level combat indefinitely. His spiritual reserves had to be lower than a true heavenly Yuan master. The sky erupted in a chaotic flow of energy as twisted Dao runes clashed with freezing frost. Ming Kong repelled Luo Xinglan and retreated hundreds of feet. His mood was foul. Luo Xinglan was stronger than he had anticipated, and he had only been able to fight her to a draw. He had assumed the other ancestors would finish their business quickly, but now Jiang Xuan had killed one of their own. Ming Kong felt a growing sense of anxiety. His plans were unraveling, and Jiang Xuan was the source of the chaos. He hated that he was currently limited by this external incarnation. Even though the underworld physique was powerful, the half-step heavenly Yuan cultivation prevented him from using his true techniques at full power. If his true body were here, he could have crushed both of them with one hand. Seeing Jiang Xuan surrounded by the 8 ancestors, Ming Kong knew time was running out. He turned to Wang Su and barked an order. Kill them. Leave no one alive. With that, Ming Kong charged toward Jiang Xuan. Wang Su raised his hand, signaling the 5,000 soldiers. Kill. The soldiers' eyes glowed with a feral red light. They surged forward, carrying a wave of deathly energy. The void trembled as a sea of killing techniques and Taoist arts flooded the battlefield. Chapter 287. Awakening the Prodigies, Self-Destruction. Perhaps they had already prepared to sacrifice their lives. Or perhaps the resonance of Jiang Xuan's sword had ignited the dormant heat of their human blood. Regardless of the reason, the assembled geniuses and paragons did not panic as the vast tide of underworld soldiers lunged at them. Instead, they reacted with startling speed, summoning their various treasures and techniques to meet the onslaught head-on. This counterattack included disciples from every major sect, the 5 princes who had huddled together for safety, and even those warriors who had previously followed Ming Kong. Although they were vastly outnumbered, their average cultivation and individual strength remained superior to that of the rank-and-file underworld soldiers. Because of this gap in quality, a battle that should have been a unilateral slaughter failed to result in a total collapse. For the moment, the human alliance held its ground. The sky erupted in a riot of color. Brilliant Taoist arts, radiant divine techniques, and the complex shifting of natural laws filled the air as the killing commenced. Within a few short breaths, the earth was stained a deep, visceral crimson by the spray of fresh blood. Luo Xinglan watched the carnage, her eyes flickering with intensity. She glanced toward Jiang Xuan, who was currently locked in a struggle with Ming Kong and the other masters. For now, he showed no signs of breaking through their encirclement. After a brief hesitation, she decided to join him and help shoulder the burden. The clash in the sky was clearly the true pivot of this war. If her lord fell, then no matter how many underworld soldiers she cleared from the battlefield below, she would eventually be cornered and crushed by the power of the underworld race. She raised her slender fingers, guiding the desolate cauldron to vent plumes of ancient, primordial energy. This energy manifested as a miniature realm of wilderness, a pocket of space designed to bind and restrict the movements of Ming Kong and his allies. Simultaneously, she pushed her profound Yin sacred body to its absolute limit. Ghostly blue light converged, condensing into a single concentrated strand of lunar power. A pale, ice-colored phantom of the moon materialized behind her. The temperature across the battlefield plummeted, and frost began to crystallize even in the open air of the void. Just as she prepared to bring the power of the moon down upon the enemy, Jiang Xuan's voice echoed within her mind. These few are enough for me. Go help the others. Luo Xinglan froze, her instincts flaring with worry. Logically, no matter how powerful her lord was, he was still only at the 8th level of the Earth Xian realm. How could he possibly face 9 opponents at once? These were 9 half-step heavenly Yuan masters, and 8 of them were underworld ancestors who commanded the very laws of the great Tao. But then she remembered who she was speaking to. Logic had never applied to her lord, and common sense was a useless metric for his potential. Without another word, she descended from the sky. With the desolate cauldron in her left hand and the phantom moon in her right, she stepped into the fray. She cast the cauldron upward, letting it hover high above the battlefield. The wilderness domain centered on the artifact expanded, creating a massive zone of suppression that weighed down on every underworld soldier. It bound their movements and blunted their strikes, providing the human geniuses with a much-needed reprieve. Then, she slowly rotated the lunar phantom in her right hand. Strands of ghostly blue light flowed from it like falling moonlight, carrying an absolute chill that froze the very laws of nature. With a simple wave of her hand, dozens of underworld soldiers were instantly encased in ice. They stood as frozen statues for a heartbeat before shattering into 1,000 crystalline shards that littered the ground. However, the most startling performance came from the siblings Jiang Qing and Jiang Hong. They were the only two in the human camp still at the spirit manifestation realm. It was hard to believe that these two were responsible for a body count second only to Luo Xinglan herself. On a battlefield where every combatant was a recognized genius, their success was an anomaly. Their effectiveness was due to their unique constitutions, which exerted a specific pressure on the underworld race. More importantly, their method of killing was unique. They were not simply destroying the enemy. They were awakening them. These soldiers were different from the 12 underworld guards. The guards had voluntarily merged with underworld flesh. They knew what they were and what they were doing. The soldiers, however, were products of a refining array. Their souls were in a state of semi-sealing. They possessed their memories but had no free will. They were like machines with rewritten code, forced to obey the underworld race. The innate divine abilities of Jiang Qing and Jiang Hong, born of their king of the underworld and ghost mother constitutions, allowed them to pierce those seals and restore the soldiers' consciousness. They were the natural enemies of this dark magic. Although their cultivation limited how many they could reach and how long the clarity would last, it was enough. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for our liberation. Inside the gray domain of ghostly energy created by the siblings, soldier after soldier regained their senses. They bowed deeply in gratitude. Though their minds had been sealed, their perception had remained active. They had been forced to watch from behind their own eyes as they became puppets, slaughtering their fellow humans. The mental torture was beyond description. No matter how selfish they might have been in life, helping an alien race destroy their own kind was a crime they could not bear. These two siblings had given them a chance at redemption. If you want to give thanks, thank our young master, Jiang Qing said simply. The awakened soldiers looked up toward Jiang Xuan in the sky and offered a formal bow of respect. Strands of invisible energy began to flow into Jiang Xuan's body. This was the luck and providence of the human race. When the hearts of the people align, their collective destiny rises to support their champion. After bowing, the soldiers did not hesitate. They charged out of the ghostly domain, burning their foundations, their spiritual energy, and their very bodies. They lunged toward Ming Kong's personal subordinates, those warriors hidden under black robes who had voluntarily merged with the underworld to become neither human nor ghost. The soldiers abandoned all strategy. They fought for a single purpose, to trade their lives for an enemy. Their clarity was fading fast. Soon, the seal would take hold again, and they would return to being weapons for the invaders. They refused to let that happen. To end their own lives while dealing a blow to the traitors was the only choice left to them. Boom, boom, boom. Dull explosions of self-destruction echoed across the field, accompanied by violent surges of energy that tore through the ranks of the enemy. Chapter 288. Throwing away the limited edition skin. The bloody battle raged on as the mountains and rivers trembled under the weight of the carnage. Overall, despite the staggering number of underworld soldiers, the human geniuses held the line. Figures like Luo Xinglan and Jiang Qian shouldered the heaviest burdens, keeping the slaughter at bay and forcing the conflict into a tense, balanced stalemate. However, everyone present understood that the true outcome of this war rested in the sky with Jiang Bei. If he could overcome Ming Kong and his cohorts, they might walk away with their lives. If not, death was their only destination. Thud, thud, thud. Sword strike after sword strike. Jiang Qian neutralized the sinister divine arts and techniques of the 8 underworld ancestors. Throughout the fierce struggle, Jiang Qian remained composed and at ease. Yet the 8 ancestors showed no signs of significant exhaustion either. They were too rational to engage Jiang Qian in a direct, head-on clash. Instead, they collaborated to entangle and harass him, clearly intending to wear him down. In their eyes, no matter how peerless and powerful Jiang Qian's sword techniques were, they had to be draining. Such power could not be sustained forever. They believed that by dragging the fight out, his condition would eventually plummet. The moment he showed a hint of weakness would be the moment they delivered the killing blow. Ming Kong played his part perfectly. He circled the periphery of the battle like a predator, his eyes locked onto Jiang Qian, secretly gathering his strength while waiting for the perfect opening. Jiang Xuan understood their tactics perfectly, but he lacked an easy way to counter them, at least, as long as he limited himself to the path of the sword. Those 8 underworld entities commanded the power of the great Tao. When they joined forces to defend, even the mighty sword of humanity struggled to deal a decisive, lethal strike. Combined with Ming Kong's constant interference and harassing techniques, the situation was more annoying than truly dangerous. 9 half-step heavenly Yuan masters were not necessarily stronger than him, but they were incredibly persistent. Fine. I suppose I do not need this Jiangbei limited edition skin anymore, Jiang Xuan thought to himself. He raised the sword of humanity once more and unleashed a massive strike toward the 8 ancestors. The blinding white light of the high noon sun reappeared, draining the color from heaven and earth. Its vast momentum loomed over the world. Now is our chance. Ming Kong and the others felt a surge of joy. Their opponent had finally lost his patience. Reaching for a finishing move meant he was desperate, and this was exactly the opportunity they had been waiting for. The 8 underworld ancestors moved in perfect unison. They invoked the power of the great Tao, sending waves of sinister energy surging outward. In an instant, they rewrote the environment, raising a domain of absolute sealing. By pooling the strength of 8 masters, they intended to block the sword strike, while simultaneously dragging Jiang Xuan into their trap. Thousands of grotesque runes manifested like profound divine restrictions, forming a powerful suppression to bind Jiang Xuan's movements and create the perfect opening for Ming Kong to end his life. As the sealing space went up, Ming Kong made his move. Thousands of mysterious, eerie runes erupted across his pale skin, granting him a level of destructive power that defied description. This body had originally belonged to an ancient powerhouse of the underworld. It possessed a physical strength far exceeding the Earth-Xian realm and a toughness comparable to a Taoist artifact. With this terrifying physical power bolstered by chains of the great Tao, Ming Kong shattered the void itself. He threw a punch intended to annihilate all laws. Boom. His fist, wrapped in Taoist inscriptions, instantly tore through the barrier of Jiang Xuan's sword domain. His momentum did not falter. Instead, it grew more ferocious, carrying a suffocating aura of annihilation. He crushed through the thousands of sword intents surrounding Jiang Xuan and aimed his fist directly at Jiang Xuan's head. Jiang Xuan's eyes narrowed into a smile. Have you taken the bait? With the 8 ancestors pinning him down and Ming Kong lurking on the edges, he had felt restricted and frustrated. But now, the situation was simple. These enemies believed his only trump card was that single sword strike. They assumed that once he used it, there would be a window of vulnerability, a perfect time for Ming Kong to strike. They did not realize this was an illusion he had carefully sold to them. Boom, boom, boom. As Ming Kong drew near, thousands of lightning bolts materialized out of thin air. They danced like wild serpents as the terrifying laws of lightning surged, instantly shattering the ceiling space. The indestructible lightning body ignited, and ancient lightning runes appeared across Jiang Xuan's flesh. Jiang Xuan gripped his sword in his left hand and balled his right hand into a fist, meeting Ming Kong's strike head-on. Physical strength that far surpassed all limits erupted like a volcanic explosion. Crash! The void shattered, revealing a patch of absolute darkness. The terrifying power of lightning formed an indestructible lightning prison, forcefully suppressing all of Ming Kong's energy. Ming Kong's expression twisted in utter disbelief. He was inhabiting the body of an ancient underworld powerhouse. How could he be physically inferior to his opponent? This Jiang Bei was supposed to be a master of the sword. How could his physical body be this monstrous? Regret came too late. Jiang Xuan's lightning-infused fist decimated more than half of the power within Ming Kong's stolen body, sending him flying backward like a broken doll in a spray of fresh blood. This was only the beginning. Now that the hidden threat of Ming Kong was neutralized, Jiang Xuan could focus entirely on the 8 old fools of the underworld. The thousands of lightning bolts raging across the sky began to converge and restructure, gradually forming a lightning giant nearly 1,000 feet tall. A lightning avatar. The giant reached its massive palms into the thick, dark thunderclouds above, as if grasping for something. Boom. The world shuddered violently. A thunderous roar erupted from the empty air. Down on the blood-soaked battlefield, both the geniuses and the underworld soldiers were momentarily dazed by the sound. The lightning giant slowly withdrew what it had been holding. A giant sword. A massive blade composed entirely of the profound laws of lightning, shaped exactly like the steel sword in Jiang Xuan's hand. The world went silent. For a brief moment, all sound vanished. An unprovoked sense of impending doom swept in like a storm, radiating in all directions. Every person on the battlefield felt a surge of intense fear deep within their soul. Their hair stood on end. The entire battlefield seemed to be held still by a giant hand. Everyone stopped fighting and turned their eyes upward toward the lightning giant, their mouths hanging open. They were covered in a layer of awe and terror. Thousands of underworld soldiers stood motionless, the emptiness in their eyes replaced by profound dread. Their auras fluctuated wildly, as if the seals on their wills were loosening under the pressure of the struggle. What? What kind of divine art is this? Ming Fan stammered, lost for words. Lightning? Jiang Xuan had been hiding this as well. Luo Xinglan stared upward, the blue light of the moon flickering in her eyes. It really has to be the Lord, she whispered to herself. She could see clearly that this was not merely a lightning art. It had been fused with the power of that peerless sword strike she had seen earlier. The fusion of the sword and lightning was a level of power that most experts in the world could never hope to master. Even beings above the rank of true God would find it difficult. Only her Lord, who had experience merging the paths of lightning and fire into the great Tao of lightning fire, had the foundation to present such a shocking sight to the world. Ming Kong, having been sent flying by Jiang Xuan's fist, spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura was withered, but thanks to the high quality of his incarnation, he was still standing with about 70% of his strength remaining. He had intended to find another opening to strike, but facing that indescribable lightning giant and its soul-chilling aura, Ming Kong stopped in his tracks. A tidal wave of shock and terror crashed through his mind. What kind of freak was this Jiang Bei? Even if his true body were here, he wasn't sure he could face such a monster. Ming Kong's expression shifted rapidly as he hesitated. Finally, he decided to follow his gut. He spat out another mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground, feigning a total loss of strength. Let the old fools fight him. They are underworld ancestors, after all. Surely they have a countermeasure, right? Chapter 289, Slaying the First Prince. Damn it. Is this Jiang Bei truly in the Earth Xian realm? What kind of Earth Xian cultivator possesses such a terrifying trump card? The 8 underworld ancestors looked on with ghastly expressions, cursing silently in their hearts. From the moment the lightning giant drew its sword and unleashed its crushing pressure, their courage had withered. There was no way to fight this. It was impossible. Jiang Bei had far surpassed the limits of the Earth Xian realm. Even among those in the heavenly Yuan realm, he would surely hold a place of honor. He was beyond their current ability to suppress. Even though they commanded the power of the great Tao, it was useless. The power of the Tao was indeed supreme, a tool of absolute dominance for those in the Earth and heavenly Yuan realms, but they were merely revived remnant souls. Having only recently possessed these bodies, they were limited to half-step heavenly Yuan strength. Their grasp of the Tao was fragmented and incomplete, leaving them unable to bridge the gap against a trump card that defied the very hierarchy of cultivation. Curse that Ming Kong. He never mentioned that Jiang Bei had mastered the great Tao of lightning. Furthermore, the strength of 2 separate Taos seemed to be stacking. To command 2 paths already made him a world-shaking monster. Could this boy actually be capable of fusing them? The 8 ancestors continued to vent their inner fury. Had they known such a freak existed, they would have mobilized far more men and resources. At the very least, they could have abandoned the plan for the demon cave and struck from another angle. They would not be trapped in this desperate situation now. We have to give it everything. If we can take this boy down with us, Ming Kong might still have a chance to complete the plan with the remaining soldiers, one of them said in a heavy voice. The others nodded in grim agreement. In an instant, all 8 ignited their physical bodies, pushing their fragmented Tao power to the absolute limit. Sinister energy surged like a vast, rising tide. The sealing domain reappeared, deeper and darker than before, its restrictive runes growing increasingly complex. It seemed to shudder against the fabric of time and space, creating a mysterious, swirling current of darkness. Suppress. The 8 let out a low, furious roar. They dared not give Jiang Xuan's lightning giant any more time to gather momentum. Together, they thrust the sealing domain toward him. The mysterious dark current acted like a gluttonous beast, swallowing and annihilating the endless lightning that raged around it. Wherever it passed, it left behind a void, as if reality itself were being erased. Is it not a bit late to think about mutual destruction? Jiang Xuan laughed softly. He focused his will into the lightning avatar. The thousands of lightning bolts surged once more, shaking the heavens and causing the void to crack under the unbearable pressure. The lightning avatar slowly raised its massive sword. Strike! The sword fell. In that moment, only one blade existed between heaven and earth. It was similar to the sword of humanity from before, yet different. This strike did not bring the light of high noon. Instead, it brought a cataclysm of lightning. Dark purple bolts, shaped like ferocious dragons, coiled and roared within a world of pure electricity. This was ultimate destruction, bolstered by Jiang Xuan's peerless sword intent. The annihilation of lightning and the sharpness of the sword fused into a single strike designed to unmake all things. In truth, Jiang Xuan had not yet reached the stage of true fusion between the paths of the sword and lightning. This was still the sword of humanity. However, unlike the previous version that only carried the human will, this strike was infused with his lightning Tao, which had already reached the domain level. Executed through the lightning avatar, its power was staggeringly immense. The blade descended. The sealing domain trembled violently like a house about to collapse. The deep, dark current was instantly hollowed out. The suicidal ultimate technique of the 8 ancestors, fueled by their own burning lives, began to wither and melt at a visible rate. It defied all logic. With the sealing domain destroyed, the 8 figures were forced to a halt. They stared blankly as thousands of lightning dragons lunged toward them. Their faces turned ashen, their bodies felt cold. Now that their final gambit had failed, there was no point in further resistance. It was over. As despair took hold, the destructive sword made impact. The roaring dragons swallowed the 8 ancestors instantly, turning them into bursts of lightning that illuminated the sky. The 8 revived souls of the underworld were utterly annihilated. Brilliant lightning filled the void, casting a harsh glow over the battlefield below. Beneath the flickering bolts, the gathered geniuses looked on in horror, while many of the struggling underworld soldiers showed expressions of awe and gratitude. Then, with peaceful smiles, those soldiers detonated themselves. Thick blood flowed between the piles of corpses, staining the battlefield a shocking reddish-brown. The geniuses standing in the carnage felt a sense of daze. Was it truly over? Jiang Bei had slain 8 half-step heavenly Yuan masters with a single strike. What level of power had he actually reached? After the initial shock, Jiang Xuan, Ming Fan, and the others felt their spirits soar. They raised their weapons and roared, "Kill!" They threw themselves into the remaining underworld soldiers with renewed ferocity. The elite leadership of the enemy was gone. The soldiers alone could not turn the tide. No matter their numbers, the collapse was inevitable. Luo Xinglan gazed up at Jiang Xuan, her eyes full of wonder and her resolve strengthened. She raised the lunar shadow and continued her systematic clearing of the enemy ranks. The stunned geniuses snapped out of their stupor, their confidence restored as they rejoined the fight. If even the half-step heavenly Yuan masters had been cut down, what did they have to fear from these puppets? The momentum of the battle shifted entirely. What had been a stalemate became a one-sided slaughter. The human alliance was unstoppable. Hidden in the heart of the underworld army, Wang Su's pale face had lost every last drop of color. Originally, his only motivation for living was to kill Jiang Bei with his own hands. After witnessing Jiang Bei's rise, that goal had shifted to simply wanting to see the man die. Now, even that seemed impossible. He truly could not understand it. Ming Kong had allied with the underworld and brought a force that included 10 half-step heavenly Yuan masters. How could they fail to kill one man? Not only had they failed, but Jiang Bei had nearly wiped them all out single-handedly. Wang Su squinted at Jiang Xuan in the distance, rubbed his bald head, and sighed in frustration. "Fine, you win." He promptly lay down on the ground and pulled 2 dead soldiers over himself as a makeshift blanket. Ming Kong, who was also lying on the ground, could no longer maintain his act. Jiang Xian's sword was already resting against his throat. "Someone has tried that move before. They were more professional than you," Jiang Xian said with a chuckle. Ming Kong's expression was hideous. He looked up at Jiang Xian and growled, Who are you really?" He knew the original Jiang Bei had died during the internal purge of the Jiang family. He knew the person standing before him was the prodigy with the ancestral bloodline. Yet, to this day, he had never been able to uncover his opponent's true identity. Jiang Xian's expression remained calm as he swept his blade across. A flash of cold light erupted. A blood-stained head flew into the air. Chapter 290, Refining Countless Living Beings. In the Copper Demon City, inside the residence of the first prince, Ming Kong suddenly snapped his eyes open. A spray of blood erupted from his lips as his aura spiraled into a chaotic, withered mess. Deep, irreparable cracks splintered across his divine soul. His external incarnation had been obliterated, wounding his true self and stripping away at least 30% of his total strength. "Jiang Bei." Ming Kong let out a low, blood-flecked growl. His eyes burned with a murderous light. "If I do not kill you, I am not worthy of being human." He snatched up a command jade and crushed it as if it were Jiang Bei's own throat. He sent a frantic transmission to the ancestor in the ancestral lands who supported him. "Ancestor Tianyu, I implore you to leave your seclusion and assist me." "What is it?" A thin, cold voice responded, sounding nearly decayed with age. "I beg the ancestor to descend and help me level the demon cave. We must seize the true demon crystal." Ming Kong reported the events of the demon cave with absolute honesty. His voice was thick with killing intent. "Jiang Bei has ruined my great plans and sabotaged our progress. If this boy is not eliminated, my heart will never know peace." A cultivator at the 8th level of the Earth Xian realm managed to slay several underworld ancestors. Ancestor Tianyu's ancient voice carried a hint of surprise. After a long silence, he spoke slowly. "Rest assured, I am leaving my seclusion now. I will arrive within the hour. The Underworld Race is the greatest opportunity for our great Ming immortal dynasty to dominate the profound heaven. Any error in the plan must be rectified immediately. If we do this, the Underworld Race will likely be exposed to the world. This is extremely detrimental to our grand descent. You must reconsider." Ming Kong turned sharply toward Mr. Zhai. His tone was sharp with resentment. The mighty Underworld Race once conquered half of the profound heaven. Why have you become so timid now? Mr. Zhai's eyes flickered. Times have changed. Our opportunities are few. The spatial tunnel for the descent is not yet complete. If we are exposed now, the guardians of humanity will move to destroy that tunnel at all costs. Millions of years of planning would vanish in an instant. Ming Kong stared intensely at Mr. Zhai. So, we simply need to ensure no one finds out? Mr. Zhai was puzzled but nodded. As long as we are not exposed and the hidden guardians do not notice us, there is no issue. Simple then. Ming Kong gave a cold, heartless smile. We simply refine every living soul within 100,000 miles of the Copper Demon City and the Demon Cave. We turn them all into underworld soldiers. I guarantee that not a trace of your race will be exposed. Mr. Zhai's eyes widened. He stared at Ming Kong in shock, horrified by the prince's sheer ruthlessness. You would refine every living being within 100,000 miles. Why? Can you not do it? Ming Kong asked, arching an eyebrow. It is possible. Mr. Zhai hesitated. But Copper Demon City is one of the 3 ancient cities of the Great Ming. It is home to millions. If you were to take the throne, these are your subjects. If Jiang Bei is not killed and the crystal is not seized, there is no future to speak of. Ming Kong's expression was indifferent, showing not a shred of pity. Instead, his eyes were sharp with malice. If they are refined into underworld soldiers, they will all obey my commands. Is that not 1,000 times better than the ignorant masses we have now? Mr. Zhai hesitated for a moment longer before slowly nodding. Since you have made your decision, we shall proceed. I will organize the underworld forces that have already crossed over and lay down a great rebirth array centered on the city. Covering 100,000 miles while including the Demon Cave is no small feat. It will cause a significant disturbance. You must mobilize your experts to provide cover, especially King Xiao, who governs this city. His stance has always been ambiguous. You must deceive him, or he will cause trouble. Do not worry about King Xiao. Ming Kong smiled coldly. I have the handwritten decree of Ancestor Tianyu. Even King Xiao must obey. Very well. Mr. Zhai turned and left to mobilize his people in secret. Ming Kong wasted no more time. He stabilized his injuries and walked out of his cave to the city walls to meet King Xiao. The king was startled. You. Ming Kong waved him off and spoke in a low voice. I carry the decree of Ancestor Tianyu. King Xiao, you are to watch the coming changes in the city in silence. You are not to interfere. A decree from Ancestor Tianyu? King Xiao's face shifted. He stared deeply at Ming Kong and growled. The struggle for the throne was a rule agreed upon by the ancestors. Are you intending to break that rule? Ming Kong shook his head and laughed. The throne? With the support of the underworld and Ancestor Tianyu, the throne was already mine. This competition was merely a way to silence the other branches and officials. Now, after everything that has happened, I have lost my patience. King Xiao, I hope you have the sense to stay out of this. Ming Kong dropped the warning and walked away, ignoring the suspicious stares of the various protectors hidden in the void. He had to personally mobilize the princes and marquises of the Great Ming to cover for the underworld's array. The Great Ming had 5 kings and 13 marquises. 3, like King Xiao, remained loyal to the emperor and tried to stay neutral. Of the remaining 15, 8 were already aligned with Ming Kong. With the ancestors' decree, mobilizing them was simple. All 8 were venerables. Today, he would level the Demon Cave and refine the entire Copper Demon City. Jiang Bei, your true identity will be revealed very soon. Ming Kong's heart surged with malice. I will make you tell me yourself. Chapter 291. The True Demon Emerges. Why has Ming Kong reappeared? Has his incarnation already perished? In the void above, the guardians of the various factions were struck with disbelief. As the leader of the Hidden Dragon list, Ming Kong had long since stepped into the heavenly Yuan realm. Even his external incarnation possessed the terrifying strength of the peak Earth Xian realm, making him one of the most formidable forces within the Demon Cave. How could he have fallen so quickly? Since the opening of the cave, only a few days had passed. Did Ming Kong encounter a powerful demonic creature, or was he hunted down by another prodigy? Speculation ran wild among the observers. Regardless of the cause, they could not help but feel a deep anxiety for the safety of their own disciples. What catastrophe had occurred inside the cave to extinguish an entity as strong as Ming Kong's incarnation so early on? Inside the Demon Cave, the young geniuses were still dazed, their minds reeling from the display of Jiang Xuan's power. A single punch to cripple Ming Kong, and one sword strike to annihilate 8 half-step heavenly Yuan masters? What kind of godlike force was this? At what unfathomable level did Jiang Bei truly stand? What are you staring at? Finish off these wretched things now. Ming Fan shouted, breaking the collective stupor. The geniuses snapped back to reality and ignited their power once more, unleashing Taoist arts to wipe out the remaining underworld soldiers in one final surge. They knew they had no hope of competing with Jiang Bei for the true demon crystal, but once the soldiers were dealt with, they might still have time to hunt lesser demons to earn demon crystals and fate of the profound heaven. Though far from their original ambitions, survival and a modest harvest were enough for them now, given the betrayal of Ming Kong and his alliance with the Underworld Race. But at that moment, another mutation occurred. Crack, crack, crisp, splintering sounds rang out like the tolling of a massive bell, echoing throughout the entire cave. Suddenly, the world began to shake violently. The mountains trembled, and the earth split asunder. The thousands of divine restrictions of the sealing array manifested in the sky, only to shatter into dust as if they could no longer bear the strain. The piles of corpses and the rivers of blood on the battlefield were suddenly caught by a mysterious force. They flew backward, surging toward the deep, shadowed sealing ground of the true demon. Under the refinement of countless ancient demonic runes, the flesh and blood were converted into pure energy, gathering around the ancient black iron coffin. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of powerful heartbeats resonated through the air. A suffocating pressure spread out like a tidal wave, saturating the world. Multiple hulking figures appeared beneath the coffin, kneeling upon the ground like slumbering generals of the abyss. They had awakened to welcome the return of their king. The faces of the geniuses turned pale as they stared toward the sealing ground. Through the hazy gray barrier of light, they saw several powerful silhouettes whose auras were rising rapidly, fueled by the influx of blood and remains. Has the sealing ground of the true demon birthed new, great demons? The demon cave was suppressed by a divine array created by celestial gods. The highest restrictions are supposed to make it impossible for anything at the heavenly Yuan level to survive here. How can the sealing ground produce demons with such terrifying auras? One prodigy cried out, unable to hide his terror. And there was more than one. The geniuses stood frozen, their hearts filled with dread. If these great demons truly stood above the Earth-Shin realm, how could they possibly hope to resist? Boom. The ancient black iron coffin suddenly exploded. The thousands of Taoist chains binding it were reduced to powder. A pillar of majestic demonic light shot upward like a celestial column, tearing the cloud-choked sky in two. Swoosh. A torrential rain of violent, evil demonic energy began to pour down. Within the shifting radiance of the demonic light, a massive head slowly revealed its true form. Two dragon horns grew from the skull, seemingly containing the mysteries of the universe. Deep demonic runes writhed across the face, and the eyes flashed with an ancient, profound light. The heavy demonic rain reversed its flow, surging toward the head to condense and patch together a physical body. The surrounding space rippled and trembled, struggling to contain the sheer weight of this presence. The true demon had been born. Little ones, your performance was a bit dull. I have not yet seen enough to be entertained. The ancient, evil demonic voice sounded like a dark god whispering directly into the ears of the youths, planting seeds of temptation in their minds. Their souls shook, overcome by a sudden fear of losing themselves to the abyss. They quickly tightened their mental focus, fighting back the creeping influence of the demon's voice. Their hearts were filled with panic. This was a true demon? How was it possible? Had the true demon not been ground into nothingness by the divine array? The true demon's head turned slowly, its crimson eyes looking down upon the crowd with cold indifference. To this being, these geniuses were merely useless ants, fit only to serve as nourishment to awaken its followers. Its gaze swept across the crowd before finally coming to rest on Jiang Xuan. The demon scrutinized Jiang Xuan for a long time. An unusual glint appeared in its eyes, followed by a faint smile. Still in the Earth-Shin realm, yet your paths of the sword and lightning have both reached the domain level. You possess the Indestructible Lightning Body, and your soul, physical form, and Tao foundation have all broken through their absolute limits. You are not bad. Submit to me, and I shall grant you eternal life. Once, this demon ruled the demonic race, conquering the heavens in an attempt to unify the myriad worlds. It had sought to prove its Tao through the universe and transcend existence, only to be intercepted by meddling gods. In its moment of carelessness, it was suppressed here by those gods who sacrificed themselves to seal it. With its supreme realm of half-step transcendence, the demon could have found many ways to break this mere divine array. However, this world was special. At the moment of its sealing, the demon had glimpsed a hazy vision of its own chance for total transcendence hidden within this realm. Thus, it had chosen to settle into a long dormancy. It waited for the right moment to break the seal and live a second life, rising again with even greater foundations to conquer the heavens. That moment had finally arrived. After nearly 10 million years of waiting, the great era was coming, and it was time to step out. In this age, the demon intended to stand above all worlds. However, a 10-million-year slumber carried certain drawbacks. First, it required a massive amount of resources to reshape its body for its second life. Second, its original followers and foundations had withered away over the ages. Only a few buried generals remained, and their strength was nearly spent. They desperately needed resources to recover. This boy before it fit its requirements perfectly. If taken as a servant, he could solve the problem of its lack of elite subordinates. To command two paths at the domain level while still in the Earth-Shin realm was a level of talent rarely seen even in the demon's original era. He was a peerless monster. Moreover, With the indestructible lightning body and a foundation that had surpassed its limits, the boy could surely achieve immortality within 100 years under the demon's guidance. When the day came for the true demon to rule the heavens, this boy would undoubtedly be a supreme general whose name would shake the universe. The true demon looked down at Jiang Xuan and smiled thinly. Brat, even the descendants of gods and demons would go mad for my favor. This is your lucky break. I hope you cherish it. Chapter 292. The seal crumbles. The true demon oppresses. The crowd paled in horror. Was this truly a true demon? Had it managed to live a second life? How was this possible? It had been suppressed beneath the divine array for nearly 10 million years without being ground into nothingness. What unfathomable realm had this being reached in its previous existence? It was beyond the scope of imagination. It is over. Despair spread like wildfire through the hearts of the gathered geniuses. They were already powerless against the schemes of Ming Kong and the Underworld. How could they hope to stand against a supreme, true demon emerging from the ancient past? Even if the demon had once been torn limb from limb and currently possessed only a head, the speed at which its physical body was reforming, coupled with its terrifying, rising aura, suggested it still held the absolute power to crush them. They had no way to resist. Not even Jiang Bei could save them now. Furthermore, now that the true demon intended to recruit Jiang Bei, they could think of no reason for him to refuse. Whether for survival or for his future, the choice seemed obvious. They were utterly alone. In their hopelessness, many of the geniuses stopped hunting the remaining underworld soldiers. If death was inevitable, struggling was a futile waste of effort. At that moment, a disciple from a great sect looked toward Jiang Xuan with a desperate expression. Jiang Xuan, open the gate. Let us out. This is an ancient true demon reborn. We cannot fight this. That is right. Let us leave. We can return to level this cave once we have grown stronger. The ancient gate of the demon cave was resting on Jiang Qian's shoulder. If he opened it, they might still have a chance to escape with their lives. Their faces were twisted with fear. They were too weak. Even if there was a heaven-defying opportunity here, they were in no position to fight for it. Jiang Qian's eyes widened. He slammed the ancient gate into the ground with both hands. Boom. A heavy, muffled explosion echoed, accompanied by Jiang Qian's violent aura. It shook the heavens and created a suffocating pressure. If anyone else dares to cry out, I will strike you dead myself. The geniuses who had been shouting immediately drew their heads back like frightened quails, not daring to utter another word. They had seen Jiang Qian's strength firsthand. His true combat power far exceeded his rank of 98 on the Hidden Dragon list. He could likely break into the top 30 without issue. Most people present were no match for him. Father, maybe we should go too? The little girl ran to Jiang Qian's side, her bloodline trembling. She tried to tug him away. Her instincts told her that this true demon was far too powerful for her to challenge at her current stage. Jiang Qian smiled and patted the girl's head. He did not immediately respond to the demon's recruitment offer. Instead, he looked at Jiang Chun. Open the gate. Let them out. Yes, young master. Jiang Chun was reluctant, but he obeyed. The ancient gate began to radiate a mysterious, shimmering light. But in that instant, a voice rang out. Are you refusing me? The true demon's voice was majestic and cold, causing the very world to shudder. The torrential demonic rain stalled in midair. A supreme aura erupted, and the entire demon cave was suddenly crisscrossed by countless shimmering threads of natural law. They intertwined like a spiderweb, wrapping around the entire cave and binding it tight. These threads writhed and coiled around the ancient gate, instantly snuffing out its light. Jiang Chen froze, his expression souring. Young master, the gate has been sealed. The geniuses turned deathly pale. This was total despair. The way out was barred. There was no path left to live. Brat, my gifts are not so easily rejected. The true demon looked down at Jiang Qian, its voice echoing through the world and vibrating in the ears of all present. Over the vast expanse of time, it was not only the demon that had withered, but also the power the gods had poured into the divine array. Now, that divine power had vanished. The demon could seize control of the array with a single thought. Now, it only waited for the seal to break completely. Then, it would refine everyone present to reshape its physical body. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions erupted from the sealing ground. A shimmering, holy substance could be seen, using its unique power to form thousands of profound restrictions that guarded the area. However, the radiance of that substance had dimmed significantly, and the seals were collapsing rapidly. As they broke, the evil intent leaking from the sealing ground grew more massive, and the speed of the demon's reconstruction increased. Beneath the massive head, a solid chest had already formed. Jiang Qian sensed it. That shimmering substance was his true goal, the sacred relic of the human race. However, as he gazed at the rapidly reviving demon, his brow furrowed. Obtaining the relic would be no easy feat. The supreme true demon met his gaze, a strange, blood-red light flickering in its deep pupils. Its voice was indifferent. A genius has the right to be proud. However, I do not like being rejected. Rumble. More than half of the remaining seals on the sacred relic collapsed. A depthless surge of demonic energy erupted from the sealing ground, filling every corner of the cave. The demon cave shook violently, the divine array trembled, and all laws wavered as if the world were about to fall apart. Violent, malicious intent gathered into ghostly demonic shadows that flew out to invade the minds of the geniuses. The underworld soldiers were the primary targets. They were corrupted and demonized almost instantly, turning into bloodthirsty, frenzied monsters. Roar! The maddened soldiers began to slaughter everything in sight. The geniuses, their eyes turning bloodshot with panic, could only sit cross-legged and focus their minds to resist the invasion of the shadows. They had given up all hope of survival. Even the saintess of Wenchang and the disciples of the academy were struggling. However, Jiang Xuan and Jiang Qing remained unfazed. They had experience with such things and did not fear the shadows. To them, the true demon was their young master's prey. In their minds, Jiang Xuan was the incarnation of invincibility. The mere aura leaking from the cave made their hearts tremble. One could only imagine how terrifying this true demon truly was. Even they might not have the confidence to contend with it, let alone the young geniuses inside. Damn it! Many guardians cursed under their breath. They struck out one after another, attempting to shatter the barrier of the demon cave to rescue their disciples. However, it would not budge. The divine array covering the cave was set by a god and was peerlessly powerful. Though it was now unstable, it had been eroded by demonic laws, as if it were being refined and mastered anew by the true demon. It became more mysterious and powerful, and they simply could not break through. The guardians were frantic. They crushed communication talismans to seek reinforcements from their respective sections. If venerables could not break it, then perhaps a supreme powerhouse of the void god realm would have to take action. But would even a void god be enough? Damn it! Is this kid going to get himself killed? Jiang Qiankun stood high in the sky with a heavy expression. The divine array had undergone a strange transformation. Even he was not sure he could break it. He could use forceful means to crush the demon cave, but the powerful energy fluctuations might be more than Jiang Xuan could endure. Just then, in the sealing ground, several hulking figures who had been kneeling slowly stood up. A fierce and terrifying prestige shot into the sky. A horrifying aura belonging to the heavenly Yuan realm swept in all directions like a mad tide. Buzz! A soul-shaking blood-red light flashed through the cave like a startling swan. Welcome back, our king. 9 burly figures looked toward the true demon with fanatical eyes. They spoke with muffled voices that sounded like the demonic music of the great Tao, booming incessantly. Clear the area so I may recover, the true demon commanded. These 9 were its followers, capable generals who had once fought across the heavens. Each possessed unparalleled talent, capable of slaying gods and immortals. Though they had been buried here and their cultivation had worn away, they had not perished. It was only a matter of time before their strength returned. Now that the seal was breaking and the array was dissolving, the 9 followers had already recovered to the heavenly Yuan realm thanks to the nourishment of the genius's flesh and blood. As peerless generals who had conquered the heavens, regaining the power of the heavenly Yuan realm made clearing out these youngsters, who were generally in the Earth Xian realm, as easy as flipping a hand. As you command, the 9 followers answered in deep voices. They strode out of the sealing ground. Mysterious demonic runes flowed across their burly bodies. Their immense physical strength created dense spatial ripples. Their high realm allowed them to call upon the momentum of heaven and earth. Every movement was like a demon god descending, possessing the power to destroy the world. Bang! The 9 followers each condensed a true demonic weapon and slashed at the geniuses. A chilling slaughtering intent annihilated thousands of laws. What the hell? A follower's broad blade crashed down like a sacred mountain. Jiang Chun was startled, his scalp tingling. He immediately activated all his trump cards and poured his energy into the ancient gate. Using the gate as a blade, he swung upward to meet the strike. Bang! A collision sounded. An indescribably terrifying force hit him like a furious wave, instantly swallowing him. Jiang Qin's body cracked in several places. Blood splattered as he was sent flying backward. These were generals who had followed the true demon across the heavens. Now that their strength had returned to the heavenly Yuan realm, they were an absolute crushing force against these geniuses. Total dominance. Even with Jiang Qin's deep foundation and superb combat power, he was not a match for a single strike. Since even Jiang Xuan had no power to fight back, most of the geniuses present were like livestock waiting to be slaughtered by these 9 demon-like followers. Cries of shock and screams of pain accompanied the splashing blood. Under the cover of the monstrous demonic energy, the 9 followers were like executioners from the underworld, harvesting lives and purging the demon cave. It was a purge in the truest sense. In an instant, groups fled in panic. Young master, you leave first. We will stay behind. The 3 geniuses of the Jiang family, along with Jiang Qing and Jiang Hong, spoke anxiously. If even Jiang Chun could not resist, it was unlikely the young master could counterattack effectively. The only thing they could do was use their lives to buy more time for him. A little more time meant a better chance of survival. Ming Fan brought the saintess of Wenchang and others toward Jiang Xuan. Brother Jiang, with your strength, you have the best chance to escape. We will cover your rear. Luo Xinglan also flew over. She held the desolate cauldron in one hand and a phantom of the lunar moon in the other. She said solemnly, "My lord, hide yourself first and look for a chance to leave. Rest assured, before I fall, I will not let you suffer the slightest harm." She was certain her lord could escape safely, but she feared an accident. She had to do everything in her power to ensure his safety, even at the cost of her life. After all, her survival might not change the fate of the desolate heaven sect, but the young master was a man of honor. If he lived, he would surely help the sect in memory of her sacrifice today. If even the young master could not escape, then she was surely doomed anyway. Jiang Xuan glanced at Luo Xinglan with surprise. Had this girl recognized him again? "Master, give me 15 minutes. I can break the seal and open the gate." At that moment, the voice of the human tablet spirit echoed in Jiang Xuan's mind. 15 minutes. Jiang Xuan's eyes flickered. He turned to the others and instructed, "The gate can be opened in 15 minutes. Support each other and retreat under cover. Ensure your own safety." Then, he gripped his blade and charged toward two of the approaching followers. Jiang Xuan's expression did not change. How could the strength of supreme powerhouses from the distant past be measured by common logic, even if they had only recovered to the heavenly Yuan realm? He deployed his sword domain, lightning domain, and fire domain simultaneously. Using the domains of three great Daos, he forcibly suppressed and restricted the movements of the two followers. His body became a series of afterimages, moving through the domains to dodge their attacks. Meanwhile, he used his sword to command lightning and fire, unleashing strike after strike. Every blow was no weaker than the sword of humanity. Three Daos, all at the domain level, standing high in the sky while reshaping its body. The true demon looked down at Jiang Xuan. Its eyes flickered with a hint of shock. To master three Daos and have them all reach the domain level while still in the Earth Xian realm was a terrifying level of talent and comprehension. Even in its own era, no one could match it. This boy's potential was not inferior to the descendants of gods and demons. "Brat, I value your talent. If you submit, my promise remains valid," the true demon said calmly. "I can grant you eternal life and lead you to the pinnacle of the heavens." Buzz. Divine flames erupted and a sea of fire surged. Jiang Xuan knocked back a follower with a strike. He glanced at the true demon and gave a cold smile. "Why would I need you to lead me to the pinnacle of the heavens?" Chapter 294, Fighting the True Demon, all cards revealed. With a surge of will, the domains of lightning and fire merged, transforming into the great Tao of thunderfire. Thousands of bolts of lightning and tongues of flame, all saturated with the breath of destruction, crackled into existence. Rumble. The vast void shattered, dissolving into the darkness of an eternal night. Only the brilliant thunderfire remained, flickering with a singular radiance like a shower of magnificent meteors falling toward the two followers. The great Tao of thunderfire? The faces of the two followers, previously ironclad and cold, finally betrayed a human emotion. Shock and even a trace of dread flickered in their eyes. How could a mere cultivator in the Earth Xian realm have already grasped the method of Tao fusion and mastered the great Tao of thunderfire? What kind of monster was this? During their time following the true demon across the heavens, they had seen and slain countless geniuses. Even pure-blooded ancient beasts and scions of royal lineages had fallen by their hands. Yet, compared to the youth before them, those legends paled in comparison. At the very least, those royal scions could not master the fusion of Daos. That was a mystery usually reserved for those in the Saint realm. The two followers grew solemn. Facing the onslaught of thunderfire, they were forced to unleash their ultimate techniques. They inhaled the monstrous demonic energy, their bodies swelling until they transformed into 100-foot-tall demonic forms, bolstered by the laws of the demonic path. On their massive bodies, vivid phantoms of ancient calamities manifested. A ferocious dragon coiled around their arms, a sinister nine-headed bird took shape upon their shoulders, and a vicious beast lunged forward. Buzz. As the thousands of thunderfire bolts exploded, the vicious beast was instantly incinerated. The 9 heads of the bird were severed, and the dragon was crushed inch by inch. The many powerful techniques of the two followers were annihilated within the thunderfire, but the fire itself eventually exhausted its energy. They had held their ground. The two followers were about to breathe a sigh of relief when a sudden, intense sense of crisis enveloped them. Jiang Xuan's sword was striking once again. The great Tao of thunderfire reinforced his swordplay. As he slashed, lightning and flame followed the blade. All laws were extinguished, the demonic energy was swept away, and the rules of the world were ground into nothingness. The magnificent strike and the brilliant thunderfire cut across the necks of the two followers. The two followers stared with wide, blood-red eyes. The horror and shock in their gaze lingered as their vitality rapidly ebbed away. Boom. The 100-foot demonic forms vanished, and their burly bodies crashed to the earth. A single strike to behead 2 followers? The powerhouses watching from the outside world felt their pupils contract. Waves of shock crashed through their hearts. Despite the barrier of demonic laws and the divine array, they could clearly perceive the terrifying strength of these followers. It was not just their recovered heavenly Yuan cultivation, but their deep foundations and the vast combat experience gained from conquering the myriad races of the heavens. How could anyone who followed the true demon be weak? In an equal realm, none of these watchers would have been a match for a single blow. Yet Jiang Bei had beheaded 2 of them while still in the Earth Xian realm. What kind of freak was he? However, the situation inside the demon cave was clearly not optimistic. The true demon was reshaping its body and would soon revive, regaining a portion of its terrifying ancient power. That was the opponent who truly inspired despair. The mere leakage of its deep demonic aura made their skin crawl. Its true strength was impossible to estimate. High in the sky, Jiang Qiankun also looked on with worry. This true demon was simply too powerful. Even he felt a sense of trepidation from that rising, supreme prestige. How could a boy like Jiang Xuan hope to resist? Across the vast central province, ancient auras began to ripple within several forbidden life zones. Old monsters who had lived through multiple eras were stirred, casting suspicious and uncertain gazes toward the demon cave. Whose aura was this? Why did it cause even them to feel a sense of unease? First, the ancestor of the Zhao family revived, and now another powerful being had returned. Was the profound heaven truly falling into chaos? Inside the demon cave, seeing Jiang Xuan slay 2 of its followers with a single strike, the true demon's deep pupils flashed with a cold, piercing light. Brat, you are testing my patience. In truth, the true demon was far from calm. It believed it had evaluated this youth's potential objectively, but it seemed it had still vastly underestimated him. Putting aside the many trump cards he had already revealed, the fact that he had rejected the demon time and again spoke volumes. There were plenty of arrogant geniuses in the world, but few were foolish enough to seek death. Since he had the courage to refuse repeatedly and kill 2 followers, he clearly possessed some form of reliance, believing himself capable of matching a god. At the very least, he believed he could escape with ease. In the current, silent heavens, how many of the younger generation could truly be confident in escaping its grasp? The great era had not yet arrived, and the profound heaven was still relatively barren. How could it produce such a pride of the heavens? Jiang Xuan flicked the blood from his blade and looked calmly at the true demon. I entered this cave for 2 reasons, the sacred relic of my people, and to temper myself. Now, the sacred relic has been found. Jiang Xuan glanced at the relic floating above the sealing ground. Its holy light flickered, clearly unable to maintain the seal much longer. Once the true demon finished reshaping its body and stepped forth, the relic's mission would be over and it would fly free. Conversely, once the seal was entirely shattered, the true demon would be truly free. Jiang Xuan tightened his grip on his blade and pointed it at the true demon. I have not yet had the chance to fight with all my might to temper myself. True demon, you once conquered the heavens and hunted the myriad worlds. I wonder if your revival today can force me to use my full strength? Such gall. The true demon's eyes flew wide as it unleashed a supreme, demonic roar. Demonic energy surged and flames billowed. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying prestige swept through the world like crashing waves. The mysterious, holy seal shattered instantly. The supreme, true demon broke free from its shackles and stepped out. As the seal turned to dust, the sacred relic was sent flying. The true demon stepped through the air and reached out with its still ethereal right hand, snatching it. It was an 8-sided seal. Above, the 4 celestial spirits were carved, their holy phantoms roaring. Below, the 4 seas and 8 wastes were etched, encompassing the entire world. It was the sacred tool of the human race, the seal of Zhuanqiu. The seal flashed wildly with holy light, but no matter how it struggled, it could not escape the true demon's palm to fly toward the young master. It had suppressed the demon for 10 million years and had long since exhausted most of its energy. Though it still contained boundless power, it could not exert even a fraction of it now. The true demon held the seal in its right hand and placed its left hand behind its back. Looking down at Jiang Xuan, it said coldly, "Young man, being young and aggressive is not always a good thing." The true demon now stood like a giant propping up the sky, devouring the surrounding demonic energy like a whale swallowing a river to fill its form. Its ethereal body was slowly becoming solid, and its aura was rising at a visible rate. Having stepped into its second life, its strength was returning rapidly. The heavenly Yuan realm. It was not that the demon could only reach this level. It was that the divine array's restriction on cultivation was still in place, temporarily limiting it. This would not last long. The demon cave was collapsing, and the array's suppression would only grow weaker. Its strength would continue to climb. It is a pity you will never have the chance to be young and aggressive again. By then, Jiang Xuan had already moved. He slashed a fearless strike at the true demon. Brilliant thunder fire tore through the sky. and a piercing sword intent punctured the void. The fusion of Daos is indeed rare throughout history, but your cultivation is too far behind. The true demon spoke coldly. Its left hand formed a fist and struck out. The power of the demonic path followed the blow, instantly shattering Jiang Qian's strike. The demon stepped through the air toward Jiang Qian. Each step was slow, yet everything in the vicinity fell into a state of stagnation. Even the flow of the great Tao's energy ground to a halt. This is not how power is used. A fist was thrust out lightly. It was simple and unadorned, with no energy leaking out, yet it carried the terrifying sensation of a collapsing world and the extinction of the great Tao. Chirp! A clear cry rang out through the heavens. A magnificent phantom of a vermilion bird fanned its wings, carrying divine flames as it flew out. Commanding a torrent of fire, it crashed into the true demon. Boom! Flames splattered everywhere. The true demon's body trembled, and the state of stagnation was instantly broken. Jiang Qian activated the vermilion bird's sacred body. Divine flames swirled around him, and the phantom of the bird protected his form. A holy, violent aura rolled out in waves. This is... The true demon stared at Jiang Qian, its eyes narrowing with surprise. The vermilion bird's sacred body? The great Tao of Thunderfire was not his limit. Now another sacred body had emerged? Just how many secrets was this boy hiding? Chapter 295. War, War, War. Jiang Qian's pupils contracted, and his expression grew solemn. The power of this true demon far surpassed any opponent he had faced before. Compared to this being, even Ming Kong seemed insignificant. However, a faint smile played at the corners of Jiang Qian's mouth. This was exactly the kind of opponent he needed. This true demon, who had once stood at the pinnacle of the heavens, would be the perfect test for his current strength and the ultimate whetstone to sharpen his path. Jiang Qian moved again. His lightning avatar commanded 10,000 bolts of electricity, slashing toward the true demon. Simultaneously, a phantom of the vermilion bird surged forward, shrouded in brilliant divine flames. A sea of fire roared and billowed like a tidal wave of celestial wrath. Jiang Qian himself dissolved into a blur of afterimages, weaving through the void. He activated the Seven Stars' secret art, manifesting a vast starry universe to seal the four corners of the world. The Taiji Palace map and the five elements world-reversing sacred array appeared in rapid succession. The flow of Yin and Yang neutralized all laws and purged the surrounding demonic energy, while the five elements slowed the movement of the great Tao and ground the demonic rules into dust. Saint-grade inheritance. Another saint-grade inheritance. And yet another. Jiang Qian unleashed multiple saint-level techniques in a single breath. Some were designed to suppress the demon's movements, while others were meant to drain its energy in a direct confrontation. His strategy was simple. With his immense hidden reserves, he would overwhelm the true demon through sheer attrition. The true demon's composure finally broke. Its previously indifferent expression shifted, and a wave of genuine shock rippled through its mind. Could this truly be the Earth Qian realm? What kind of Earth Qian cultivator could master so many saint-grade inheritances? These were supreme techniques, not common trinkets found on a roadside. Even a peerless saint, unless backed by a top-tier sect, would usually only master one or two such inheritances in a lifetime. Young man, I admit I have underestimated you, the true demon said calmly before lunging toward Jiang Qian. The demon struck with fists and palms that carried the profound truths of the great Tao. Mysterious demonic runes flowed around its limbs, creating an indescribable force of annihilation. Its movements were grand yet effortless, heavy yet precise. It shattered the five elements and yin yang seals and crushed the phantom starry universe with ease. Using its still ethereal body, the demon plunged directly into the sea of flames surrounding the vermilion bird. It took a direct hit from the lightning avatar's sword, yet only a few of its demonic runes flickered and broke. It was not entirely unscathed, but the damage was trivial. While Jiang Qian's saint-grade inheritances were lethal, his current cultivation level prevented him from unleashing their true potential. Against a being of this caliber, the power was still insufficient. However, as Jiang Qian moved through the void, he closed the distance. He activated the mountain god's secret art, and a hazy, ancient aura rose from his skin. His physical strength reached the weight of 10,000 tripods, manifesting phantoms of mountains and rivers around him. Jiang Qian, though not massive in stature, now resembled a titan carrying the weight of the world. He engaged in close-quarters combat, using a style so ancient it was primal. The mountain god's secret art was a powerful physical combat method created by the mountain god itself. Its power was at the absolute peak of saint-grade inheritances, if not beyond. Coupled with his indestructible lightning body, Jiang Qian wanted to see whose physical form was truly superior. You wish to compete with me in physical strength? The true demon realized Jiang Qian's intent and shook its head with a laugh. Young man, even though I am still reshaping my body and my strength is not even a fraction of its peak, I carry the royal bloodline of the demonic race. My physical toughness is beyond your comprehension. If you relied on those saint-grade arts, you might have a sliver of a chance. But in a contest of flesh, you will learn the true meaning of despair. The true demon turned into a blur. Wherever the demonic mist drifted, the demon appeared. Within the vast expanse of the battlefield, it seemed to be everywhere at once. Boom, boom, boom. A series of afterimages attacked from all sides. Jiang Xuan stood as firm as a mountain, shattering each phantom with a flurry of precise punches. The combat was incredibly fierce. The heavens shook, and laws were ground to powder. The void fractured repeatedly, leaving behind deep black holes that refused to heal. In mere moments, the two had clashed nearly 10,000 times. Despite the demon's relentless assault, Jiang Xuan parried every blow, refusing to give an inch. As the struggle continued, the true demon's internal shock grew. This boy's body, was it actually stronger than its own at the Earth Xian level? The sheer amount of power he could mobilize was staggering. Even for a body in the process of reconstruction, this defied all logic. Where had this monster come from? The true demon cursed silently. It had to admit that with its current recovery limited to the heavenly Yuan realm, it could not suppress this opponent. Jiang Xuan blocked another strike and frowned with dissatisfaction. All that talk, and this is all you have? He had expected a soul-stirring battle to test his mountain god's secret art, but the experience was proving disappointing. It was not that the true demon lacked power, but its combat style had become cautious and evasive, which did not fit the grand image of a supreme demonic being. Jiang Xuan unleashed his saint-grade inheritances once more, not to wound the demon, but to purge the endless demonic mist from the air. The void cleared for a brief moment, allowing him to lock onto the demon's true position. Jiang Xuan's gaze turned cold. He lunged forward, his indestructible lightning body roaring to life. His physical strength, which had already shattered its natural limits, exploded with the added weight of the mountain and river phantoms. He moved with the speed of a lightning strike, closing the gap instantly and throwing a devastating punch. The weight of the world crashed down. The void collapsed, and the heavens seemed to go silent under the sheer majesty of the blow. The true demon's expression changed. It found the situation increasingly difficult to handle and nearly impossible to understand. Saint-grade inheritances were notoriously draining. How could this boy still have such abundant spiritual energy after fighting for so long? No matter how much of a freak he was, his cultivation level should dictate a finite pool of energy. This made no sense. Brat, you have successfully enraged me. Under the mounting pressure, the true demon let out an angry roar. It instantly drew in the limitless demonic energy from the surroundings. Its ethereal body solidified into a physical form, and its aura surged, infinitely approaching the Tao integration realm. Reshaping a body was supposed to be a gradual process, especially while the divine array still exerted its pressure. Forcing his body to solidify so quickly carried heavy risks, but the demon decided it would rather spend time fixing the damage later than suffer a humiliating defeat here. The true demon threw a punch of its own. Terrifying power and laws instantly upended the world, annihilating everything in their path. A force several times stronger than before surged toward Jiang Xuan. Caught off guard by the sudden spike in power, Jiang Xuan was sent flying. He tumbled through the air for hundreds of feet before he managed to stop himself. His body was at its limit. Bloody cracks appeared across his skin. Yet, Jiang Xuan smiled. The true demon was desperate. It was clear that at an equal level of power, Jiang Xuan was the victor. A heavy killing intent now radiated from the true demon. It could tolerate a genius showing off talent and was even willing to spend time fighting him. It might have even overlooked his defiance and taken him under its wing. But if a genius possessed the potential to actually threaten its existence, that could not be tolerated. Die! The demon roared and lunged, wrapped in a terrifying, malevolent shroud. Jiang Xuan's eyes darkened as he felt the mounting pressure. The true demon was in a state of rapid revival. There was no guarantee this would be the last surge in its power. He had to end this quickly, or the situation would become truly dangerous. Fine, he thought. Since I have already exposed so much, I might as well go all the way. Jiang Xuan shifted his blade to his left hand and reached into his brow with his right, pulling out the human tablet. An indescribable, majestic, and ancient aura instantly filled the entire demon cave. The mountain god's secret art continued to surge. The human tablet flashed brilliantly, manifesting a shadow that seemed to pierce the heavens. Its towering majesty seemed to pin down the entire cave, causing even the true demon's movements to slow significantly. Is that the human tablet? Outside the cave, everyone watching the battle gasped in shock, their eyes nearly bulging out of their heads. Chapter 296. So the one called Jiang Qiankun is him. In the current profound heaven realm, which member of the younger generation holds the greatest fame? It is undoubtedly Jiang Qiankun. He charged alone into the true god's secret realm, swept through countless geniuses, and seized the human tablet. He beheaded numerous Earth Xian practitioners and even struck down void gods. Truthfully, when the demon cave changed and the true demon revived, Most people assumed that only Jiang Qiankun would have the power to face such an entity. But Jiang Qiankun was nowhere to be found. Instead, it was this recently emerged genius, Jiang Bei, who stepped forward. He unleashed powerful techniques that terrified even the onlookers, fighting the true demon head-on. Not only did he hold his ground, but he seemed to be suppressing the demon in certain aspects. The observers were stunned that the longevity Jiang family, which had been in decline for ages, could produce two such monsters in a single generation, until he summoned the human tablet. At that moment, everything became clear. The realization hit the Guardians like a tidal wave. Even worse for the demon, the presence of the human tablet was agitating the seal of Zhuanshu held in its hand. The seal flashed with a holy, blinding light. The phantoms of the four celestial spirits and the outlines of the world grew solid. The seal struggled violently to break free and resume its duty of suppression. The demon was forced to divert its energy and focus to keep the seal contained. With an external threat and internal interference, the true demon was struggling. If this continued, there was a real chance of falling at the hands of this youth. The true demon hesitated. To reclaim its chance at transcendence and return to the peak of the heavens, it had kept many hidden cards in reserve. However, those were intended for the future. Using them now would severely disrupt its long-term plans. The demon felt that even a genius as strong as this boy was not worth exhausting those resources. The cost was too high, but Jiang Xuan did not give it time to think. Using the ancient aura of the human tablet to pin the demon down, he charged forward once again. He gripped his blade in his left hand and unleashed a breathtaking strike. This time, the sword was accompanied by a phantom of reincarnation. The reincarnation secret art. The sword light covered everything, while the phantom of reincarnation slowly turned in reverse. It acted like an invisible hand, seizing the laws of the world and the void, twisting them with brutal authority. In that moment, the world turned upside down. Laws fell into disorder, and even time and space seemed to tremble. The true demon's eyes widened. An indescribable terror washed over its body. It felt like a bucket of cold water had been dumped over its head. It was no longer just alert, it was horrified. Reincarnation. It knew this power all too well. In the distant past, when the demon was still a rising talent, it had witnessed an immortal being who mastered reincarnation. With a single finger, that being had annihilated an entire, undying ancient race. Who is this boy? What kind of ancient lineage stands behind him? The true demon panicked. Without a second of hesitation, it acted on pure instinct and played its hidden card. Boom. The sealing ground exploded. From within the depths, a sea of demonic energy erupted. Within that mist, millions of tangible, snarling demonic shadows lunged toward the crumbling divine array. Like savage beasts, they began to devour the array, consuming its energy to fuel themselves. Any observer with specialized vision would have seen that every one of these millions of shadows shared the exact same face as the true demon. During its long imprisonment, the demon had divided its power, creating these shadows to store portions of its original energy. Over 10 million years, it had split itself into millions of pieces, totaling nearly a tenth of its former peak power. Originally, these shadows were meant to be absorbed slowly after the demon reached its second life to bypass the long period of growth. Using that energy directly would mean walking its old path, which it had hoped to avoid in favor of total transcendence. But now, it was no longer about the path. It was about survival. The sounds of shattering echoed through the air. Under the assault of the shadows, the divine array finally collapsed. The restrictions on the cave and the shackles on cultivation levels vanished instantly. The demon cave fell apart. With the limits gone, the true demon's power began to rise without restriction. Millions of shadows flew back into its body, forming ancient demonic runes on its skin. Its aura became deep, ancient, and supreme. It was a leap in the very level of its existence. Even the manifested laws of the great Tao bowed at its feet. Tao integration realm. First level. Second level. All the way to the ninth level. An ancient demonic light flashed. A soul-shaking aura of the sovereign realm spread out, pressing down on everything in the vicinity. The cultivation level was still climbing, but the demon would wait no longer. The true demon looked at Jiang Xuan. Its face, blurred by the haze of laws, radiated a freezing intent to kill. This boy must die. The demon knew that the longer it waited, the greater the danger. A monster like this certainly had an ancient sect behind him, and likely had powerful guardians nearby. It had to strike with lightning speed to crush him before any outside help could arrive. The demon struck with its right palm. Like a giant crushing an ant, it smashed through the towering phantom of the human tablet and extinguished the sword strike reinforced by reincarnation. The palm descended like a mountain meant to suppress the universe. Jiang Xian's heart raced as he retreated at high speed, cursing under his breath. This bastard has no sense of honor. Chapter 297. I can slay the true demon for you. A sovereign? Outside the demon cave, the guardians felt their hearts skip a beat. Their faces paled with shock. How could the true demon's cultivation jump so significantly in an instant? Zhang Bei is finished. The crowd lamented in their hearts. If such a brilliant genius were an enemy, they would be filled with dread, but seeing him driven into a dead end, they could not help but feel a sense of profound regret. Of course, this emotion was mixed with fear for their own disciples trapped within. With the true demon leaping to the sovereign realm, it wasn't just the young geniuses who were doomed. Even the guardians themselves would be helpless against such power. Jiang Qiankun was losing his mind. Damn it! Mountain Ancestor, where are you? He had already summoned an ancient cauldron, swirling with nearly tangible power of the great Tao, and smashed it toward the demon cave. The phantoms of the four celestial spirits roared, striking with all their might. Bang! 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 The sounds of the collision echoed like the collapse of the heavens, shaking the entire central province. A power infinitely close to the true God realm crushed everything within 100,000 miles. Every living being within that range felt their bodies heavy with a deep, soul-shaking awe. They looked toward Jiang Qiankun, horrified. Is that a true God? No, he is still a void god, but one infinitely close to the true God realm. The old monsters stirred across the central province, observed from afar, and reached a conclusion. Still, they were shaken to the core. Which faction could produce such an invincible powerhouse? In the current profound heaven realm, true gods were almost non-existent. This man looked relatively young. Could he be the first true god of this era? Curse it! Jiang Qiankun swore repeatedly. The true demon had taken control of the cave, and the demonic laws enveloping it seemed infused with the power of the demon's past life. It was incredibly resilient. Even for him, breaking through would take time. Not long, 3 breaths would suffice. But in 3 breaths, that boy would be dead 10 times over. Inside the cave, the true demon was too fast. After returning to the sovereign realm, its speed was beyond imagination. Even as Jiang Xuan retreated frantically, he seemed to be moving at a snail's pace in the demon's eyes. Boom! An indescribable palm strike descended. Hell! Jiang Xuan's soul shuddered. He couldn't dodge it. Was this really how it ended? Boom! The entire demon cave shook violently, then fell into a deathly silence. It seemed as if the dust had finally settled. The true demon smiled and looked up toward the outside of the cave. Seeing Jiang Qiankun desperately battering the barrier, the demon felt a surge of relief. A half-step true god. That boy's guardian is indeed extraordinary. If I had hesitated for even a moment longer, he really might have escaped today. 3 breaths were enough time for the demon to raise its cultivation further, allowing it to ignore even a half-step true god. Countless demonic shadows continued to pour into the true demon's body, and its aura surged rapidly, already beginning to give off the faint scent of a void god. But then, a sound broke the silence. Cough, cough. Jiang Xuan tumbled out of the void, coughing up blood. The true demon spun around, its eyes wide with disbelief. Still alive? Without another word, it struck out with another palm, its killing intent boiling over. This boy was too unnatural. If he were allowed to walk out of this cave alive, the demon would never know peace. Jiang Xuan's heart was still pounding. If the black hole Tao base hadn't automatically protected its master by pulling him into a dimensional fold to bypass most of the damage, he would be a smear of red meat by now. He looked at the true demon with rising fury and a cold laugh. Fine, you want to play like that? Mountain Ancestor. Buzz. A vast, ethereal aura spread out, instantly covering the entire cave. It was light and thin, almost undetectable to an ordinary person. But the true demon, now a half-step void god with razor-sharp senses, felt its soul shudder. A powerful sense of crisis surged, and it instinctively retreated. Almost simultaneously, a fair, slender hand appeared out of thin air. It carried no divine light, no staggering prestige, and almost no energy fluctuation. It was simply a hand, gently closing into a fist. It instantly crushed half the world within the demon cave. If the true demon hadn't reacted with lightning speed, it would have been crushed along with the landscape. A true god. The true demon froze, a flicker of shock crossing its eyes. The myriad worlds were withering, and the profound heaven had grown barren. How could a true god still exist? Boy, you really aren't afraid of death, are you? The white-robed mountain ancestor appeared as a hazy figure beside Jiang Xuan. His voice carried both a reprimand and deep concern. Why hadn't he been summoned earlier in the face of a reviving true demon? If Jiang Qiankun hadn't sent word ahead, the time it took for the ancestor to tear through space after the talisman was crushed would have been enough for Jiang Xuan to die 100 times. I just couldn't bear to make you take action, ancestor, Jiang Xuan said with a sheepish smile. Jiang Qiankun had mentioned that the mountain ancestor had sealed himself in the divine tomb and was nearing the end of his lifespan. His longevity blood was almost dry. Once he stepped out, he would have only 3 months to live. Summoning him was essentially starting a countdown on his life. With Jiang Qiankun outside, Jiang Xuan had assumed he would be safe. He hadn't expected his ancestor to be so unreliable at the critical moment. The mountain ancestor was speechless, offering only a helpless smile. Trading my life for yours is a bargain I would take any day. Are you here in your true body? Jiang Xuan asked hesitantly. Jiang Qiankun sent word early, so I am only here as a projection, the mountain ancestor said calmly. If you want this true demon dead, my true body can arrive instantly. The true demon might have been invincible across the heavens in the past, but that was the past. It was still recovering and was only in the void god realm. If the ancestor's true body arrived, killing it would not be difficult. Forget it, Jiang Xuan said, waving a hand toward the true demon. Your life is far more precious than his. Let him be. I will save him to practice with later. Thinking back on the fierce battle, Jiang Xuan added with a hint of relish, it isn't easy to find such a well-matched opponent. Their conversation was not hidden from the true demon. The demon's expression was dark, its heart filled with malice and a growing sense of wariness. It had refined and taken control of this cave, and its defenses were incredible. The half-step true god outside had been hammering at it with a treasure and failed to break in. Yet this true god had entered easily with a mere projection. This true god was something else. The fact that a true god still existed in this barren world was surprising, but not enough to truly rattle the demon. In the ancient days when it fought across the heavens, true gods were often just named cannon fodder. But currently, the situation favored the strong. Even a true god it would have ignored in the past had to be treated with caution today. The opponent had formidable methods, and the demon was not certain of victory unless it exposed all its hidden trump cards. That would be a losing gamble, wagering millions of years of planning. Even if it killed the opponent, the cost would be ruinous. Most importantly, victory was not guaranteed. The boy's background was clearly massive. In this impoverished era, they could still deploy a half-step true god as a guardian and have a true god ready to step out at any moment. This revealed a great deal. At the very least, this was likely not the full extent of their power. The true demon's gaze swept over Jiang Xuan. A genius like this undeniably possessed the bearing of a great emperor. In the demon's own era, such a person would have been a strong contender for transcendence. No matter how high the demon estimated the boy's background, it would likely be justified. Only such a legacy could explain how such a monster had been born. Chapter 298. Leaving the demon cave safely. That works too. The mountain ancestor thought for a moment and nodded slowly. As Jiang Xuan said, it was not worth trading his life for the true demon right now. This boy certainly knew how to cause trouble. Usually, he acted as cautious as could be, but the moment he entered a secret realm for a trial, he became a different person, constantly flirting with death. First, it was the true god's secret realm, which led to a siege by void gods. Now he was even more daring, clashing directly with a true demon living out its second life. The ancestor was not afraid. The Jiang family had plenty of hidden resources to back this boy up. However, there was no guarantee the kid would not stir up even bigger trouble in the future. It was better to preserve his own remaining life to act as a shield for the boy for as long as possible. The mountain ancestor raised his eyes and looked at the true demon, issuing a warning. Even if you were a true demon who once stood at the peak of the heavens in your past life, you should weigh the consequences of touching someone from my longevity Jiang family. The true demon's pupils contracted as it grew extremely vigilant. The longevity Jiang family. No wonder. It knew of this ancient clan and had heard the legends. They were descendants of the 8 great royal lineages of the ancient era. The 8 human kings and their royal tribes had been cursed by the Azure Demon Emperor, causing their bloodlines to decline and wither. After the era of the great emperor's fall, they had withdrawn from the world to find a way to break the curse, effectively leaving the heavenly stage. It had not expected the Jiang family to retreat to the profound heaven realm and survive to this day. The bloodline curse formed by the Azure Demon Emperor's self-sacrifice failed to wipe out the Jiang family. The true demon felt a stir in its heart, its mind racing with possibilities. Had they already broken the curse? Or was it the unique nature of the profound heaven realm that suppressed the power of the curse? The profound heaven realm appeared to be a barren, mid-sized world, but in reality, it hid many great secrets. This was something the demon had confirmed the moment it was suppressed. During its 10 million years of waiting, it had silently observed this world, and its suspicions had only grown stronger. The longevity Jiang family's decision to retreat here was no accident. In a way, it further corroborated its theory. The mountain ancestor waved his hand, forcibly taking the seal of Zhuanshu from the true demon. The demon's face darkened, and its first instinct was to lash out and fight. However, it forced that impulse down and remained silent as the object was taken. Since it had already chosen to yield, fighting now would lose it the advantage. It was better to give both sides a way out. Outside, the observers were shaken. What was the cultivation level of that projection? To make a true demon yield voluntarily? A true god? Everyone instinctively resisted that belief. A true god's presence in the current profound heaven realm would carry far too much weight. It was enough to change the entire landscape of the world. This monster Jiang Bei was already terrifying enough, but if he had a true god protecting him, how could the geniuses of other sects compete? They might as well bow down and hope to catch whatever crumbs fell from his fingers. It is unlikely to be a true god. Since the ancient times, the profound heaven realm has withered and become barren. It has been difficult to produce even a void god for tens of thousands of years. So how could someone prove the path to becoming a true god? A guardian from a sacred land offered a calm analysis. This is likely a soul imprint left behind by an ancestor of the Jiang family from a previous era. The various factions nodded. This was an explanation they could wrap their heads around. Boy, it is time to go. The mountain ancestor handed the seal of Xuanxu to Jiang Xuan. He gave the instruction while remaining wary of the true demon. Although the demon's killing intent had faded, he had to stay on guard. These were all old monsters who had lived through countless ages with treacherous minds. No one could guess their true intentions. He could not afford to be careless. If the true demon ignored honor and launched a sneak attack, the ancestor would be fine, but the boy certainly would not survive it. Jiang Xuan took the seal and blinked. Go. How? Ancestor Jiang Qiankun had been hammering at the barrier this whole time and still had not broken through. Sometimes, Jiang Xuan really wanted to question the reality of Jiang Qiankun's void god cultivation. After a moment of thought, Jiang Xuan shook his head. Relying on others was never as good as relying on himself. He activated the myriad chaos immortal art to test the waters. The energy of chaos surged. As if he were cheating, the energy directly corroded the demonic laws covering the cave. Perhaps because Jiang Xuan's cultivation was insufficient, he only corroded a very small hole, but it was just enough for someone to pass through. Jiang Xuan was stunned. It actually worked? That myriad chaos immortal was not a fraud after all. He really had some skill. Damn, if I had known, I would have kept him alive. Jiang Xuan felt a sudden pang of regret. That useless myriad chaos immortal had very few things on him. There was only the blessing of the gods, which was already depleted after its value was squeezed out. Jiang Xuan had casually tossed him to the young girl, and he was likely gone by now. A remnant soul with no combat power that required resources to nourish. Jiang Xuan was not a philanthropist. Why keep him? He was surrounded by way too many remnant souls of ancient experts already. Between the eccentric master and the crowd inside the human tablet, he was honestly getting sick of them. Mountain Ancestor, we are taking the first step out. Jiang Xuan waved to Jiang Chun and the others, and they slipped through the small hole. This boy really does have more tricks. The Mountain Ancestor glanced at Jiang Xuan, feeling a bit conflicted. When the boy said he could not bear to make him take action, he was probably just being sweet-talked. Truth be told, the kid might not have even needed him that much. He could survive a strike from the true demon, and he had his own ways of leaving the cave. In fact, he had more than one way. The Mountain Ancestor glanced at the ancient gate Jiang Chun was carrying. The seals on that thing were almost completely gone as well. I am getting old. The Mountain Ancestor laughed at himself, but his smile was full of pride for Jiang Xuan. The true demon's eye twitched as a wave of emotion rose in its heart. So, even if the true god had not appeared today, this boy was confident he could escape. This time, the demon was truly shocked, and its sense of crisis grew. It was not a genius with great potential that was scary, but a genius with too many backup plans. On the surface, the boy fought with a life-and-death madness, as if he did not care for his own survival. In reality, he had already prepared his escape route and could leave at any moment. He holds multiple terrifying trump cards, is a descendant of a royal lineage, is backed by the longevity Jiang family, and has a treacherous mind. The true demon watched Jiang Xuan's departing back in silence. Its intense killing intent rose and fell like a roller coaster before finally turning into a long sigh. This child was too unnatural. Logically, it could not allow him to grow. Once he gained power, all the demon's plans would surely turn to dust. On the path to transcendence, the demon feared it would become nothing more than a background character or a stepping stone for this youth. But the boy's potential, background, and methods were simply too ridiculous. Was the demon absolutely certain it could kill him? No. The chances were 50% at best. And that was assuming the most optimistic scenario where the Jiang family had not solved their bloodline curse. If the curse were already broken, the demon's chances of winning would be infinitely lower. Whatever. We will see how things go. If an opportunity arises, I will strike to crush him in his cradle, the true demon thought. If there is no opportunity, then there is no opportunity. We will talk then. Chapter 299, The Descent of the Underworld Race. Jiang Xuan departed, and the projection of the mountain ancestor dissipated into the air. Because of Jiang Xuan, the true demon felt a sudden loss of interest in the current proceedings. He summoned his 7 followers, ceasing the slaughter of the geniuses remaining inside. He issued his orders to the 7. The divine array has vanished, and the demon cave is on the verge of total collapse. All restrictions are gone. Increase your strength immediately. Now that we have returned to this world, we shall dominate a territory and plot for the great era. We obey. The followers replied in unison. With a wave of his hand, the true demon drew countless heavenly treasures from the pit of the original sealing site. He refined them into pure spiritual liquid, pouring the essence into the bodies of his followers. Deep demonic light flickered. The cultivation of the 7 followers rose with staggering speed. Unlike the true demon, These followers had merely been sealed as burial companions. They had not been ground down by the seal over the ages. With an abundant supply of resources, restoring their strength was a simple matter. Jiang Xuan looked back at the cave. The demonic laws were now shattered, so the small hole corroded by the chaotic energy was gone. He gave a helpless shrug. I just walked out. By the way, Jiang Xuan hesitated, but couldn't resist asking. Ancestor, are you really a void god? Jiang Changsho's expression darkened further. He instinctively tried to explain himself. With my strength, 3 breaths would have been enough to break that cave. But I was afraid that if I used too much force, I would hurt you. Before he could finish, Jiang Xuan cut him off, waving a hand with a chuckle. It is fine, Ancestor. I understand, really. You understand nothing. Jiang Changsho's face turned black. He had not expected the defenses of the demon cave to become so rigid once the true demon took control. He truly had been afraid to use his most powerful killing techniques, as even a slight overflow of energy would have been enough to kill the boy instantly. Seeing Jiang Xuan's expression of silent, mocking agreement, Jiang Changsho found himself speechless and cursing his luck. His lifelong reputation had taken a hit today. Suddenly, a series of explosions rocked the area. The demon cave collapsed completely. Deep demonic energy spread outward like a plague, expanding in all directions. Within that mist, terrifying demonic malice and blood-red light erupted. The auras of the 7 followers had reached the void god realm. The terrifying pressure rolled out alongside the expanding demonic mist, weighing down on the surroundings. Various factions were alarmed. With the 7 followers reaching the void god realm, the demon cave had become a territory ruled by the true demon that they had no hope of resisting. Guardians stepped out from the void, watching the expansion with uncertain expressions. Their young geniuses were still inside. After some hesitation, many guardians gritted their teeth and charged into the cave against the pressure of the void gods to rescue their disciples. It was at this exact moment that Ming Kong returned. He stood atop the walls of Copper Demon City, his eyes fixed on Jiang Xuan as he emerged from the cave. His gaze seethed with murderous intent. He turned to Master Zhai at his side. Is the Grand Array ready? It can be activated at any time, Master Zhai replied with a faint, deathly pale smile. Then what are you waiting for? Start it. Ming Kong barked. Master Zhai immediately signaled the experts of the Underworld Race to activate the Reincarnation Grand Array. Boom, boom, boom. Ancient and sinister artifacts flew into the sky, connecting with one another to form a crisscrossing web of evil runes. With Copper Demon City as the center, the array covered tens of thousands of miles, blotting out the sky and forming a massive cage. A ghostly, cold aura spread, a substance so foul and evil it seemed to seep into the very marrow of one's bones. Following this, experts of the Underworld Race flew out, many of them in the Sovereign Realm. Without a word of warning, they unleashed lethal techniques, beginning a slaughter against all parties. Even the ordinary citizens within Copper Demon City were not spared. Today, the goal was to refine every living soul in this territory. This is the Underworld Race. As the slaughter began, the various factions finally realized the truth. They were filled with shock and fury. The great Underworld Immortal Dynasty had actually conspired with the Underworld Race? How did they dare? The Guardians had intended to rescue their geniuses, but with the true demon in control of the cave's interior, only a few succeeded despite their best efforts. Most of the young talents perished within. Those Guardians who emerged without success were met with the blades of the Underworld Race. Conspiring with the Underworld? Betraying the human race? The great Underworld Dynasty is seeking its own destruction. The Guardians roared in rage. The experts fought back fiercely while sending distress signals to their respective sections. However, with the Grand Array covering tens of thousands of miles and the sky obscured, all methods of communication failed. Panic grew as they fought for their lives, praying that their ancestors would sense the disturbance and come to their aid. Battle lines formed everywhere as the slaughter intensified. Jiang Xuan was equally furious. With the experts of the Underworld Race fully deployed, it seemed Ming Kong and his kin no longer cared to hide their identity. Jiang Changsho's expression shifted. Boy, we have to get out of here fast. The Underworld Race's trap was one thing, but the multiple void gods at the demon cave were the true threat. If the true demon decided not to let Jiang Xuan go and gave chase, Jiang Changsho alone might not be able to protect everyone. Jiang Xuan understood the gravity of the situation. Let's go? You want to leave? It is too late. Jiang Bei, today you die without a doubt. Ming Kong roared. He turned toward a section of the void and bowed deeply. Pointing at Jiang Xuan, he said coldly, I report to Ancestor Tianyu. This is the boy Jiang Bei who ruined my great plans. His guardian is suspected to be a half-step true god with terrifying strength. I asked the Ancestor to take action and stop him. Ancestor Tianyu stepped out from the void. His aura was so potent it created physical ripples in the air. His sunken eyes glanced briefly at Jiang Xuan before settling on Jiang Changsho. He let out a cold laugh. The profound heaven is barren, the ways are withered, and spiritual energy is depleted. These so-called void gods are just old relics clinging to life with dwindling longevity. Where would a half-step true god come from? I will go and block him. You, kill that Jiang Bei immediately. Do not delay the great work of the underworld race. Ancestor Tian Yu took a step forward, and the world trembled violently. The terrifying prestige unique to a peak void god shook the sky, forming an overwhelming pressure that blocked Jiang Xian's path. Destroying the plans of the underworld? Ruining the future of my great underworld? Boy, you deserve 10,000 deaths. Ancestor Tian Yu looked down at Jiang Xian, his voice a cold reprimand. His gaze carried such weight that Jiang Xian, already injured, grew even paler. The retreat of Jiang Xian's group was forced to a halt. Chapter 300. Refining the living souls of a city. Ming Fan looked pale. He recognized the void god standing before them as Ancestor Tian Yu of the Ming family, a man who had always been a staunch supporter of Ming Kong. Ancestor Tian Yu, have you lost your minds? Ming Fan roared, his voice thick with fury. Colluding with the underworld race and betraying humanity? Are you truly satisfied only when the great underworld immortal dynasty is pushed into the abyss of eternal destruction? Insolent brat. Ancestor Tian Yu shot a cold glance at Ming Fan and snapped, I am the true ancestor of the Ming family. I understand the future of our clan and the dynasty far better than you ever will. He then turned his gaze toward Jiang Qiankun, his eyes narrowing. A cold, detached smile played on his lips. A half-step true god, you say? Care to find out? Jiang Qiankun let out a disdainful laugh. If you want to find out, prepare to find your grave. With that, both men shot into the high heavens, their figures vanishing into the clouds. Back on the ground, Ming Kong charged from Copper Demon City toward Jiang Xian. 8 dukes, previously summoned for this very purpose, followed closely in his wake. Kill Jiang Bei at all costs. Ming Kong commanded. Understood. The 8 armored dukes surged forward, their collective aura as sovereigns causing the very heavens and earth to tremble with terrifying intensity. Luo Xinglan shifted her stance, her voice low and sharp. Luo Ming Tianzuan. A surge of blood-red killing intent, dense enough to feel physical, tore through the depths of the void. A massive, imposing figure appeared, draped in a blood-red cloak with 3 blood-stained blades hovering around his body. As he drew closer, his face was revealed, strikingly handsome, a sharp contrast to his brutal reputation. The 8 dukes skidded to a halt, their expressions shifting. The Luoming Tianzuan of the Desolate Heaven God sect. They had not expected the guardian of the Desolate Heaven Goddess to be him. He was a legendary figure in the profound heaven realm, a man who had reached the Tao through slaughter alone. Years ago, he was already known as an invincible sovereign, earning the title of Heavenly Lord. Luoming Tianzuan stood firmly in front of Jiang Xian and the others, facing the 8 dukes. He spoke with cold indifference. This path is closed. Turn back. The 8 dukes darkened their expressions, though their hearts were filled with dread. Luoming Tianzuan. One shouted, our business is with Jiang Bei. This has nothing to do with the Desolate Heaven God sect. Are you certain you want to interfere? The corner of Luoming Tianzuan's mouth curled into a cold arc. And what if I am? You. The dukes' faces grew grimmer. They warned through gritted teeth. You may be a heavenly lord, but do you truly think you can stop 8 sovereigns on your own? Luoming Tianzuan's eyes flickered with contempt. But before he could respond, a sharp, cold voice rang out from within Copper Demon City. What if I join him? A dark, violent aura surged through the air as King Shao, clad in deep black armor, stepped through the void. He moved with a terrifying presence, crossing the distance in an instant. He nodded toward Ming Fan and Jiang Xian before turning a freezing gaze upon the 8 dukes. Dukes of the great underworld, you ignore the emperor's will to collude with the underworld race and assist a tyrant. Do you intend to bring execution upon your entire lineages? King Shao had previously retreated to his manor due to Ming Kong's direct orders. However, seeing Ming Kong attempt to refine the entire population of Copper Demon City in league with the underworld race was more than he could stomach. He had immediately mobilized his 30,000 Celestial Owl troops to purge the traitors. He was loyal to the great underworld immortal dynasty, but he served a dynasty of men, not one of the underworld. Within the city, the Celestial Owl army had already gathered, locked in a brutal struggle against the underworld invaders. The 8 dukes wavered, their faces pale with growing doubt and fear. They had harbored secret anxieties about what would happen when the emperor emerged from his secluded cultivation. If he learned of this betrayal, his rage would surely strip them of their titles and execute their families. None of you need worry. The emperor passed away 2 months ago, Ming Kong said calmly. The great underworld is already under my control. Soon, I will ascend the throne. Whether you keep your titles or rise even higher depends entirely on your performance today. The revelation hit everyone like a physical blow. The emperor was dead. Seeing Ming Kong's confidence and the slaughter surrounding them, the truth became clear. The emperor's death was undoubtedly the work of the underworld race. Ming Kong. Ming Fan's eyes turned bloodshot as he glared at his kinsman, his killing intent boiling over. I swear, if I escape today, I will tear you into 1,000 pieces. Ming Kong spared him only a disdainful glance before looking back at Jiang Xuan. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he barked at the 8 dukes. Why are you standing there? Strike. The 8 dukes steeled their hearts. Looking at Luoming Tianzuan and King Xiao, their hesitation turned into lethal intent. They had no other choice. If they did not kill Jiangbei today, there would be no future for them. King Zhao's eyes burned with murderous light, his savage nature erupting. Thick, viscous blood began to flow from Luoming Tianzuan's red cloak. Two legendary figures, both famed for their mastery of slaughter, now stood side by side to face a common foe. Ming Kong narrowed his eyes. These two were renowned sovereigns. The 8 dukes might not be enough to secure a victory. Master Zai, don't tell me these are the only sovereigns the Underworld Race has brought. Ming Kong snapped. We have gone too far to turn back. If we don't leave everyone here dead, the Underworld will be exposed regardless. Master Zai sighed and shook his head. He knew that if they failed to slaughter and refine every living soul within the array, the Underworld Race would be unmasked before the world, ruining their long-term plans. All of you attack. Master Zai flew to Ming Kong's side. At his signal, 10 more sovereigns emerged from all directions. 18 sovereigns, led by Master Zai, who stood at the half-step void god level, instantly surrounded Luoming Tianzuan and King Xiao. King Xiao's expression remained unchanged. He glanced sideways at Luoming Tianzuan. How many can you take? Luoming Tianzuan chuckled. You pick yours first. I will handle the rest. King Zhao's face twitched. Since when did you learn to talk like Jiang Haoyan? Luoming Tianzuan offered a faint smile. It has a certain flair to it, doesn't it? The corners of Master Zhai's mouth twitched. Did these two really have so little respect for them? Below, Jiang Xian's heart skipped a beat. These two, they knew his father? Luoming Tianzuan. Master Zhai glared at him, his half-step void god aura causing the sky to crack. He sneered, an invincible sovereign is still just a sovereign. You will never understand the gap. He never finished his sentence. A blood-red blade flashed across Master Zhai's throat, spraying a fountain of crimson. Thud. Master Zhai's head hit the ground. Luoming Tianzuan spoke with freezing detachment. Who gave you permission to speak? The surrounding sovereigns, including the 8 dukes, swallowed hard. Their scalps tingled with terror. A half-step void god had been decapitated in a single second. Was this really just a sovereign? How did your strength grow this much? King Xiao asked, stunned and slightly annoyed. Didn't Jiang Haoyan give us a cultivation technique? What? Did you fail to understand it? Luoming Tianzuan looked at King Xiao with mock confusion, though he was secretly enjoying the moment. King Xiao's mouth twitched. He cursed inwardly. That was a broken stone. You call that a technique? While the crowd remained frozen in shock, another thud echoed. A head fell from the high heavens. If you're going to fight, then fight. Stop all this useless talking. Jiang Qiankun descended from the sky, reprimanding King Xiao and Luoming Tianzuan. It was only then that everyone noticed the identity of the severed head on the ground. It belonged to Ancestor Tianyu. To be continued.